interwebs. This is Gamer 1745 here with my first look at Black Ice 11 and the changes that are going on with that. So you might want to check this out, especially if you're later we're going to be looking at this. Right, okay. Now, a lot of changes coming up here. They strongly recommend using the game in windowed mode. I'll just say we may cause problems because I am not, because I have more than one screen. But that still may be a mistake. So we're going to learn. Now, let's see. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to share my screen instead of just the game here. Right, so you can see what's going on here. The new here utility, this thing here where there's screenshots of it on the thing we're looking here and reading it. This is the new utility. This, as my understanding, is why they're suggesting, and I asked and someone said, and I don't know if it's the reason, is this, well, I can just have this on another window, but you won't see it up there if I do it. So I have it here. So they seem to be doing some weird and wonderful stuff with Black Ice 11 here. According to the change log up here. So far, what I've read, it sounds like they're doing wonderful things. When I say weird and wonderful, weird isn't a bad description. I'm going to, maybe during this session here, make specifically a tutorial video here, but I first need to do it at least once myself, so I know what's going on and what to expect. So we can quickly look at the major changes. Rework difficulty settings. Okay, haven't even looked at that. Haven't even gotten to the game yet. That added a feature to switch province controllers between allies. Okay, explained in info events. We can take a look at that. Added a second game window. This thing here. With extra info and features, using windowed mode is highly recommended. And I would agree with windowed mode, highly recommended for this. The main reason I'm resisting that is because I make videos and windowed mode is going to be iffy for that. So not helpful there. And I do have 3 screens, so I'm hoping windowed mode won't be a problem. Oh, hey, thank you for following. You know, that brings up something I'm going to, well, not seeing that. We'll keep going here. Hey, Arno, good to have you here, my friend. We're taking a look at the new Black Ice out hour or 2 or 3 ago. I just got it installed, partially at least. So yeah, I'm not arguing against the idea of highly recommending window mode, just I'm going to try not to do it for myself. Though I was saying I do have problems with stability, alt tabbing in and out of the game, and I'm a little worried with windowed mode as well. So don't know about that, but I'm not saying not to follow their instructions. It's just I'm going to try not to and see how it works. Reduce base RAM usage by 50 megabytes. That is good. And made changes that enable 300 more megabytes more saved. Requires user action. New window. Okay, and that is sort of why I'm reading this here, and that is this. In order to save about 300 megabytes of RAM usage, you can and should delete the 3D sprites of the units. 3D sprites, I know a lot of people that makes them more accessible to playing games like this, but because of various features with Black Ice, including more unit types that aren't covered by sprites, yeah, if you're going to get into Black Ice, you should just learn how to use the counters. It's that detailed. So we will remove this, see how this works. Okay, we're seeing, and that's what I did see, a command line thing that moves it over. Now, and this is what we're going to do in it. We're going to come, since we're doing this here, we're going to come back here. And this is okay. You don't click on this thing while the game is loading. You wait for the main intro screen. Once game is loaded into the main menu, not into the actual playing the game, but into the main menu, that's when you come to special tab. It's the special tab here. Run this thing. The text is pretty self-explanatory. Remember to restart the game after pressing this button. So we're going to exit out of this, or I mean Alt Tab and get out, but we're going to come here and exit out. And yes, exit. Okay, so you should still be seeing, yeah, there's my desk. So we are out of the game. And where do I have that linked here? That would be here, right. Now, one thing I want to tell you, and which they don't in their setup here, they have open settings files. Hello, Marcel or Fritz, how you doing today? Hey, TTA Larkin, windowed mode is generally better for stability anyways. Alt tabbing always been crap unless you have two screens. Yeah. I've tried window mode in the past, but it's been the long past. And I'm not saying it's wrong to use, and I want to be everyone clearly out there. Hello. Quesadid? Hello, how you doing? Sorry if I'm butchering that. So and it may be up to different people, but because the main reason I am resistant to it is because I do these recordings and I have it set up for my full screen. So I'm not saying I won't do it. I'm just trying to do it so that I don't need to do it. Hey, HLM Malanza. You worked on World of Blaze mod. I'm watching. No, I didn't work on World of Blaze. I've played World of Blaze mod. I've just played that and fine day outside with the kids and dogs. Cool, Marcel. But I have talked with blanking on his name right now. The main developer of World of Blaze, and so I talk with him a lot while playing some of the episodes. I do like that mod as well. So what here, right above here on my screen, and we're going to get to this here, it tells you where to set your settings to full screen or yes or no. That's correct. But here's a hint, a tip that is really good here that I have, if you've watched my install video, is create this file right here, user.dir.txt. And in the file, let's open it with here. In the file, it should have something like this, /TFH. You don't have to put it in TFH, but that is a good place to put it. And what that will do for you is it will do this, is it will create here Black Ice 11, and that is where your settings, your saves, and all of that stuff will be. So you just, that's where I do it, and that way you can have more than one version of Hearts of Iron installed, and they're not looking at sort of the same place, including more than one version of, say, Black Ice 11, or more than one versions. You can see I have a version here, or, you know, an install here. I have another install here. I have lots of installs of my you know, of Hearts of Iron 3 because of modding. And so this keeps them all from conflicting settings and setups. So that in my opinion is highly recommended. So so you should consider that before you go on. And so once you have that, now what we're going to do here is launch this again as it's said to, after we ran the remove sprites. And so it will be starting up here. And if you can afford it, I would highly recommend you getting a SSD drive to keep your HOI 3 on your system. I actually have an Optane thingy that's in it that sort of does it, because that greatly reduces down. Well, let's just go back here for the moment. Back button. Takes a moment to go back. Okay, so this should be that. And like I say, I will be keeping this on another screen here. Okay, so as it says, start game, let game start running, wait for it to save, to say save loaded, select your country and set it. Right, so I'm moving this off the screen here. So coming back to here. Now, okay, great. Curious about HOI in general. We'll be investing in a PC soon so I can play World of Blaze and vanilla HOI 4. Yeah, you need a reasonably decent PC to do that there. HL. Okay, so we're going to come in here. And I'm guessing at this point you don't have to do this every time you start running the game. I don't know it. Okay, so we're going to come in here. We're going to pick Germany. Start this game. Adapting history. You guys have any suggestions for spec? Well, you can see what I'm running if you go to my Twitch channel. Arno, if you would want to drop the link to my Twitch channel in the YouTube chat, and you can see the system that I'm currently running. I don't think you need as good a video card as I have in it, but I have not done more than that. Okay, we have this here, so let's let the time start running. I'm not going to speed it up just yet. I don't know how well. Let's speed it up a little bit. This strategic resource start trading. If that can help. Wait for the text to say. Thank you, Arno. You just go to the chat page and scroll down, and you'll see what my current specs are. I don't know what is, thought to be optimum for the thing. Specifically, like I say, I've got a very good video card in it, but you can see I have a bit of an older processor, and set up. Okay, wait for text to say save loaded. Oh, okay, now I see it. It does say save loaded now up here. I'll bring this down. Okay, it does say save loaded now here. And now, and that's what you need to, oh no, country selected, right, okay. GER, set, set there. Right. Okay, hey D-Safe, good to have you here. And Sam Piper, hello. Can you put a link to where you find this version of Black Ice? Yes, I can. Since I'm particularly out of it, I'll pop a link to this here. Right there. Copy. And yeah, I'm live streaming here. Let me just drop it in here. Paste. You can see a little bit behind the scenes what I have. That should go out to you on YouTube. Hey, Koki, how you doing? D-Safe. Oh, I also want to let everyone know D-Safe has helped me so much with various things with TRE. Thank you very, very much. And I just want to do that. Let's make everyone know that he is very helpful. So we set it as Germany set page. Now, like it says, set page, we see the start of the game. Start running. We're not going to worry. It will show save loaded. Select your country from the drop-down menu. Multiplayer. Right, we can see about that. They say some other time, but it's the host that needs to do it. Other tabs will get more information. Okay. We decided to make it 11 because of the big change with the second window. Yeah, I was expecting something new coming out, but I was expecting it to be, 10.6 or 10.7 or something, But yeah, the second window, I would agree that it validates going to 11. Right, okay. Now, the other tab will get their information updated once every X days. You can set this interval yourself. By default, it's 10 days, but daily performance is minuscule. Okay, I'm understanding the words here, but I'm not understanding the purpose of the refresh every 10 days. I don't know. What is it? What is... I don't get the purpose of that. Maybe it's up here? I was going through all of this here. Okay, and this is sort of where we save it, restarted. Airbase gets reworked. Now max capacity of 10. Each airbase increases the cap by 10 occupied airbases. Okay, more just detail here. So I guess we're going to leave this at refresh 10 every day and not reset the interval. Just so that the EULA code gets run like at well, okay, I guess I'm not understanding what I guess the EULA code is doing for here just yet. You can notice the bumps, right? Well, when you play it's B5. Country info, so we can come here. We haven't really done anything yet. Oh, okay. No, okay. I'm guessing here is that this every 10 days will update the country info. Okay, I'm guessing that's maybe what it is. like I do plan on making a proper tutorial on all of this once I know, and other stuff too. Okay, once I sort of know what I'm talking about, I plan on making a tutorial so that people, because some people do best with reading instructions, some people do better with seeing and hearing things demonstrate. So let's see here. Arno is pimping the channel out. Very good, Arno. There's puppets, more effectively to manage your puppets' focuses. The in-game decision was quite a hack, which I thought your in-game worked very well, but this window makes puppet management feel much better. You can also hide the in-game decision, so it stops cluttering your decision menu. The window overrides any choices using the in-game decision events. So puppets, click puppets here, select puppet. Germany has no puppets currently. Set puppet, current selected puppet, current focus, rares. Okay, good. Then we have the big window listed all the tradable strategic resources in your current balance and how much you currently buy and sell. Okay. So that can be quite handy to see. And I don't know who this country is, but they have a lot of negatives. It looks like Germany to me, but I think Germany's the only thing that they have positive at start is zinc. I know the Hoi 3 Black Ice team, because there is a Hoi 4 Black Ice team, but the Hoi 3 Black Ice team doesn't like it when I say this, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. Not necessarily a bad thing. They're making this more like Hoi 4, in that instead of just rare materials, you have various effects of rare materials here. Like, that's one thing I gotta wonder about here, because Third Reich Events adds a bunch of synthetic fuel factories in the game, mostly by just plunking down a single resource, of oil. And some of them also put down like an oil well on top of it to simulate oil. And because most of those same factories also, as a byproduct of the synthetic setup, because of the way you refine, the way you take coal and you split out a lot of the burnable gasoline, and it's the other chemicals. If I have all this correct, I hope I do. That you use to make plastics or synthetic rubbers. I also was sticking down a rare material there, or one rare material and like one oil to simulate the factories. And you can see some of the justification for, they do have a cost, they're not free, but some of the justification for why they were getting synthetic materials. But maybe with all of what's going on, maybe I should give Germany a rubber or something based out of all the synthetic stuff. I don't know. Oh, you did TTA. Well, very good. Hello, Santung. How are you doing today? So, I think I got to think about rubber and Third Reich Events. Yeah, and which, like both Germany and the Soviets, lack of copper really hurt things. I know that was and then tungsten was also a critical failure point in the war. So having these in the game, and their effects, I think, and I've, you get 10 experts in the room talking about these things, and you can have 12 different opinions of what their effects should be in a game like this. But yeah, I think it's good they're doing that. This panel only has 3 features. Okay, miscellaneous panel, daily build and resource counts. Normally buildings and resource counts only get calculated every 15 days. But this button overrides that and makes it happen any day. But be careful, this really tanks your performance. So let it run for 2 or 3 days and then turn it off. Okay, so on, off. Daily building resource counts. Okay. Right. I think I'm and this it's tabbing over here. Okay. Back over here. If I'm understanding all this right, I'm trying to explain it. The resource here is what I'm thinking they are understanding, as opposed to these resources. At least that's my understanding, and DSafe can correct me if I'm wrong, and I'll correct it. Is these normally it's every 15 days, and the like automobile factories in. I'm not seeing here that will come up the effect of the automobile factories and other factories that are in the game is what I'm guessing, that I'm understanding. And yes, thanks DSafe for that confirmation. So this is in which these guys and I don't know how much DSafe versus some of the other people. It's not just do you have copper, it's how much copper you have versus how much ICs you have. So Germany here has, which we can see it hasn't been calculated in yet, I think should have some zinc. So, and we can look here. Yes, it has zinc at Nordhausen. So it has some zinc, and you have the abilities to, I don't know if Bio showed up yet here, but the abilities to expand the zinc mines. Is this Nordhausen here? Yeah, this is Nordhausen. See, I'm learning the map. Here that you can expand these zinc mines here as you expand your industry to deal with things. So it's really much more than the old system is, do you have the resource or not? You will still see it up here, but this isn't where the effect happens. The effect happens down in here. And so this is really, really good. I like what they're trying to do. When we get the metal, yes, you can. I don't really care because we're not really playing the game at the moment. Let's come back to the utility here. Okay. So how often, if you want them to, as he's saying, it's normally every 15 days, but if you want to have a refresh quicker, you can do that. Okay, hide trading decision. This just disables decisions from the decision menu, so you stop annoying. The current value in the gray text box is always correct. Current state, even when you've just loaded a save and set the country, will show that right here. So show or hide current trading decisions and mine decisions. These are, I'm presuming, again, the decisions on expanding your mines that you control for your zinc or whatever. To do that. So that is good. And Covert Ops. Now this is something I thought was very interesting when I first skimmed this. Okay, a few new things have been added to Covert Ops menu. Some changes in display of a mission were made. Now, only missions that are relevant to the province you have selected are displayed, so more homeland destruction missions get shown when you select an empty province. 2 buttons to hide and show strategic trains and mines are also mirrored with Covert Ops menu. When you select your capital province, you can choose missions that will disable and enable them. Okay. There's also a new mission. Yeah. New mission to build ports to support one of your invasions. I think in-game description has all the info. Beware, you can only do this to provinces that don't already have a port. Making a province, marking province for invasion by using Covert Ops menu will allow you to build immediately naval base for your supply needs. By confirming this decision, the new naval base will appear in the selected province that you control. Okay, you have to control it. The level of a new naval base is based on the tech you have. Landing craft flotilla level will give you 2. Will give you level 2 naval base. Tech 1, 2, 3. Okay. Beware that after 30 days, the naval base will revert to level 1. You cannot build this port on a province that already has level of naval base. All right. So they're trying in a way to set up what the new No Step Back has done for Hearts of Iron 4 in a something of a floating bases there. Now yes, that was the intention. No, and I think it's really cool. Another new type of covert op is change province controller 1. They explain an info on the second page. This is very useful when you want to transfer control of a province in a multiplayer game where you can't use the console. Okay. Your puppet to your ally. To do this, you need to designate the country you want to receive the province using Covert Ops. It can be you. Okay, so if it's like an allied base by your puppet or your ally. So it's, I'm guessing by puppet or your ally, just anybody in your faction, if that would be. So you couldn't, allies couldn't, say, give it to a Soviet player or Soviet thing, even though you might sort of consider it an ally. The menu located in the province window. The allied objective. Choose selected capital and choose mark country for province options. When you designate a province, you are supposed to switch to their control by using Covert Ops menu. Selecting multiple province at once will not work. Okay, so one at a time. When you fire a decision, change province controller. Some events will fire. Just press OK. Okay, that is also really neat. You now have a function in Hearts of Iron 4 in which, and it, I mean, my God. I don't know why Paradox can't get its act to fucking gather better. That you can't build. Originally, you couldn't build at all in in provinces that you don't control. So, America couldn't build air bases in, say, Britain. Well, now, I don't think you can do that. I could be wrong, but you can build air bases in your puppets. But, or like radar, if your puppet has radar tech, and only to the level of what the puppet has. So this was directly inspired by a multiplayer session where I had to edit like 20, like 30 provinces. Yeah, and I can see this where I can see this on multiple levels for a multiplayer game. Save editing in multiplayer never happens. Yeah. Where this can happen that because I like looking at maps when I talk about things. Yes, your screen is black for just a moment. Now we're back. It's just as we're all tabbing it out. Just want to get a good example down here. You can find what is otherwise a useless province down here in, say, Sicily, and Germany could turn control over, or Italy can turn control over to Germany, and have Germany build a bunch of radars in here that Italy may not have the tech for, or have the ICs for building radar because they're busy spending all their ICs, doing the normal things that Italy needs to do. And so that, you don't turn over a province that has, ports or useful industry or something like that. Excuse me. And so turning that over, and then potentially, don't know how many covert ops you need to try to do that or not. And I'm guessing maybe very easy to do that, to set that up. And then I guess you can turn it back over to somebody else, and it will also, or can also allow better setting up of supplies coming through. Because unfortunately in this game, which is really, really bad, is that you can't send supplies to an allied port. Actually, that won't be possible because the game switches the controller back to the owner if the controller and owner are allied. But if it's an enemy province, it will stick. Controller, okay, I'm not understanding what you're saying. So, okay, so actually that won't be. So it doesn't change ownership. It just changed controller. Is that all it's doing? Okay. If the controller and owner are allied. Okay, so it will only work on occupied provinces, not on nationally owned provinces. All right, I'm understanding that. So okay, so here's what it is let's say Romania comes out and takes over this territory here, and comes in and takes over a bunch of territory, but you want it back to German control because of, that's what I was getting there, is supply problems. Because if this is owned by Turkey, say, Germany cannot run supplies to a Turkish port. So if Germany, if Turkey was in the Axis, takes Batumi here, and you go, well, hey, I want to run German supplies there, you can switch the province over to there. Okay, I get that. Thanks, D-Safe. I do, because I will make a proper tutorial with hopefully less time taking up to do all of that. Let's come back over here for this. We are just basically gone through all. Okay, I like this, not as maybe helpful as I thought, because I was also thinking about, because I know there's a really nice events in Black Ice that turned part of Britain over to England, over to part of England over to the US. But that's sometimes when you save, then I replay again, some events kind of change. Is that something wrong? Mean time to happen? Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what you're saying. I know that as he's, yeah, if it's, and it depends on how events are coded, because some of that mean time to happen stuff, which sometimes, if the way events are normally coded in sort of classic game, not so much with some of the newer Black Ice events, but it's at the beginning of the month that the game decides what is going to fire that month. So if you've played halfway through January, you save the game, you come back and start the game, halfway through January. It won't see about events that might have happened in the second half of January, won't fire until after the 1st of February. So some of that stuff does sort of happen that way. If you save and reload on the 1st of the month example, yes, the 1st of the month, that is particularly, I'll give the Scharnhorst and knives and now big guns. They've got big guns, the Hanover. Now the Hanover and the other one, the other ship here, I forget this name, 1936 they were gone, but it was in 35, I believe, they decided to scrap them, but they were still somewhat seaworthy, and with some work, they just sort of like, hey, we're going to be building all new ships, forget these old things, let's just scrap them. There were two other vessels that were sort of like rotted out, too bad to really save, but these could have been saved. So this is only retconning back a few months earlier in 35. But they were gone by 36. I'm going to save that. Yes, do your worst for bolts. Budget, we need to be careful. Well, we have no great news. Battle commanders, do you want a easy restrat set? Okay. Okay. Choosing normal means that you will get bonuses and mals from owning or missing strategic resources. The bonus and mals for each resource can be read in the info events. Again, as I was talking about earlier, that is these here. Read as a reminder, each 200 IC needs one resource, but if you have below 100 ICs, you will not receive mals. Choosing easy means that you will not receive any mals from missing resources, but you will still receive bonuses. This is interesting. I get the term normal and easy. This is now being critical. Trust me, every time I'm critical about something in Black Ice, doesn't mean I don't like it or I don't appreciate all their work in it. It's just my take on it, and I'm not saying my take is right. I'm just sort of going, well, this is the way I see it based on what I know, but I can be really wrong. Hello, Beam Slam. Good to have you here. You get dementia because you didn't choose the game start decision. I don't know what Scharnhorst said. Well, I haven't done the that. Okay. So, well, this is what I wasn't understanding. So I should still do the game start here, strategic resources, and Black Ice start prior to it, because I didn't know if I should do that before or after waiting to do the save load thing. So I will keep that in mind next time when I do this. Slammer beans, that's cool. Game start should always be done on the 1st. Yes, I know it should be, but I didn't know with the new setup. All right. How do I put this? And I'm not sure. I don't have a what I think between what they're calling normal and easy. And this is what we're talking about here at the moment. This is first look. Okay. Germany can import rubber. Now, the questions are, in my mind, is because we have this here in two levels. Hello, Omar. How you doing? And hello, I'll call you Tiwari. How you doing? Is still, yes, Hearts of Iron 3 is still running and going good with Black Ice. I wouldn't play it without Black Ice. Because we have all of these things lumped together as rare materials. And then we have rare material effects now within this game. And I am still of the opinion that the bonuses and maybe mals are for controlling the resources versus just buying the resources on the market. But so if and I don't know whether this should be normal or easy description, because I don't know which would be most accurate here. So yeah, but this is really good. We're going to go with normal here. Scripted invasions, yes. Let's come over here and strategic resource start. Introduction help start. Okay, there was building ministers types. Oh, D-Safe is Willie Messerschmitt supposed to spam out bonuses like every 3 months or something like that? I don't know. Through all of the aircraft production, is that really how Super Genius, or is that supposed to just happen once or something? Because when I've been playing this, it's like every, I don't know, I'm guessing it's 3 months, but it seems like very often he spams out a bunch of bonuses when he's your minister. So I just don't know on that, if that's as intended. Okay, disable help training unit combat experience. Was there something that was supposed to be more described here? It's set up here. Okay, switch province controller between allies. Explain it. Info events. Right, that's what we're looking for. Info events, which I'm taking informative events as info events. Page 1. Oh, next page. Oh, we got more than one page. Okay. Page 2. Okay. Buildings, invasions, energy to oil conversion, black ice, energy oil qualifications disabled by default. In real life, the process was very complicated and not readily available at the industrial scale. However, when at war, energy to oil can be activated through autarky events. Additionally, nations which had invested heavily in these techniques, such as Germany, will have access to it through certain events before the war breaks out. The conversion ratio can be improved. Okay, cool. I agree with that. What's D? I don't think Willie is special in that way. It has the same description like in the forum post. Well, okay, when I've been playing, periodically there an event pops up that will give a bunch of bonus to research for a bunch of aircraft types. And I'm guessing it's the same in the negotiation like the forum post. So I'm not sure if that is And that was at least at one time on standard versions. Okay. Naval Invasion. We're still on page 2. Well, airdroppable units. Now, what was the thinking to remove, seeing airdroppable units, removing special purpose armor from air mobility or airdrop? I mean, because yes, I know it's this is just 2 pages, right? Next page just goes to the first one. That seemed odd to me that you're removing special purpose from division composition. Well, naval invasions, that maybe what be launched, be achieved through. Okay, no, that's not what I was thinking of. No, change controller province. Okay, I wanted to read. Okay, just the same thing as mark country province change up and. All right. Okay, so we're going to disable for a year just because if I want it back, and we're going to do black ice start. Hello, Hail Caesar. How you doing? I figured that one out, even though you threw in a 3 there. What other mods do you have installed with Black Ice? Just Black Ice itself right now because this is Black Ice 11. I literally got this started and got this set up about 10 minutes after I was supposed to start my live stream. So that's how quickly this has just come out. And okay, not just like this practical decay here. Also, Beam Slam. Now I've changed this with Third Reich events, but I don't know if you want to change it for Black Ice or not. But you should move practical or jet engine practical decay from Willie to Heinkel here. Heinkel is the one who saw Hans Olin's jet engine, his first jet engine, and then Hans Olheim, or however you pronounce his name, is the guy who develops the jet engine for Germany, and he sets him up in the Heinkel factory. So it was Heinkel that was building the engines. Now Heinkel also did the first prototype fighter planes for Germany, though they didn't get put into service. So yes, engines for Heinkel, airframes for Messerschmitt, eventually for jets. And I'd also move, well, yeah, that's the big one I would move, just out for history. Exact same thing just yesterday, but I didn't get a chance to play it. Yeah, so we're taking a look at it. I was planning, because I am testing Third Reich events for, and I don't think it's going to take a lot of, I'm going to have to go in and look at things code-wise. I don't think it's going to take a lot to update. And I was planning this anyways, because I didn't think it was going to be as big of an update. Planning to update before release to whatever the next Black Ice was going to be out. But so hopefully it won't take a lot of work to update my work to 11. Okay, so we need something that might get social work first. Okay, we're going to play on normal. And we're going to come down here. Leader's backstory. Cool idea, just don't like it. Minor Nations difficulty. Okay, this is new to me. Minor Nations difficulty. I haven't seen this before. Okay, choose a difficulty and control level of AI control other minors. Each level affects its economic, industrial, and technological might of the minor nation. Choose difficulty level for AI-controlled Axis members. Each level affects the difficulty allied minors. Now, Beam Slam, if you're still there, for the miners, is it from the start or from when do they start as just controlled other miners? No, okay, I'm guessing from reading this is from the beginning, not as if they join or they don't switch over from one to the other. There, okay. So, all right. I think we're just going to go normal. Yes, from the beginning. So if you want to make these guys easier or harder or whatever to defeat, so we're going to go normal on all of them. Just I just do that as a base to learn the game, so I know what the mod or mods are doing. I have played on things on like hard before, definitely, but normally I'm just wanting normal to see what I think it should be. I would prefer the change to from normal to like historical or something, but I don't know if that would be, because I look at normal as being historical. That's what I look at it. And then we can, do you want a greater or lesser challenge playing something? Because that's how I look at it. Okay. So we're just going to lift the blockade on the Rhineland. Yay. We're going to also come over here while I remember it. And to go to mixed industry right off the bat. What other? Yeah, that's the only one I want to do now. And we're going to there, into here. I see you've changed this. You've changed this. This used to be Security Minister of Security or Security Minister, wasn't it? Where this was intelligence. Now you've changed it to Minister of the Interior. How interesting. It appears Messerschmitt and you have special effects, but the timing of the events are the same. Okay. Yes, rename it. Well, it also sort of changes to some degree, because in some countries, the Interior Minister is also sort of the head of security. But, I don't know. I think it's a good change, but I hope it's just a cosmetic change and not something I'm going to have to go in and change every thing dealing with it. Just as a semantics, yeah, to a degree. And we're going to, because we can, put Schacht in charge here. So Jack gets to, he probably shouldn't be there, but somebody made it that way. Okay. Now, I'm going to let the clock run just a little longer here. That way that sort of clicked over. This, we should have done this too. Well, whatever. And I've decided that political intel is good early on. Let's go to annual national focus and let's see. Did I do everything right? No. Okay, Rostock. I don't know if it's I don't know if it's conceptually against what you guys want to do or if it's too hard to implement, but I don't think it's hard to implement. But can you make the random heavy industry placement. Pick a province that has like 3 or 4 regular industry, minimum. That would be really helpful. And I think because we just stuck a heavy industry. Now that was 3, and the other one was it Rostock that got it? Rostock hardly has anything, because sometimes I've been seeing those show up in like the heavy industries. One time it showed up, where was it? Somewhere out in here. Tilsit. Showed up in Tilsit or something. I don't know. But it was one of the places that just had like one industry. And it just seems sticking heavy industry off in Nowheresville seemed a little weird to me. But fascist, yes. He wanted, okay, that's a hill my God will die upon. He wanted totally random as to show government ineptness. Okay, I mean, obviously, if that's going to be a hill that he dies on, but who says it's government that's putting the heavy industry down? Wouldn't it be industry putting heavy industry down? And industry, I wouldn't say is inept. Industry mostly is very, very efficient. And I'm not saying it shouldn't be random. I agree with, to some degree, the randomness, because otherwise you just, pick a province that is nearly fully maxed out and just, shove it there. But by picking one that has, I don't know, 3 as a minimum, that way it will, be somewhere where there's concentrated industry. Now, if it's if he's going to die on it, I can't change his mind. But just picking something, because obviously, if you had something that's nearly full, you just focus there, and a little too overpowering. It's funny coming from Hoi 4 and seeing how much better Hoi 3 is. Well. One thing is, here's a way that now Black Ice is implemented, but they didn't create it. I forget who it was that created this. Maybe if you guys know, as you come here, you click battle plans that Hoi 4 can't do is, and you pick Black Ice Geos, it's become called, and then you show battle. Select, okay, and then you show battle plans, and oh my God, look at this! Rivers have names. They can't even do this with Hoi 4. And yes, I talked to Podcat way back when about it. He goes, that'd be a neat idea. Maybe we should institute that sometime. And I think he really thought, when I was talking to him about it, that that was a neat idea, because trying to remember the Don from the Dnieper, from the Volga out here in places, and I don't know. I wouldn't have known that this is the Volga. I know that the Volga is here behind Stalingrad, but I wouldn't have known that this is also the Volga, and this is also the Volga. And trying to find these, and especially when I do the Let's Play, videos here, being able to talk about rivers and the historical thing, that's really cool. And so, I forget who did this originally, but it was moved incorporated into Black Ice with the original purpose. And I would love somebody to go in and do some more rivers in other places. I mean, seas have also been added, and a few major, the Yangtze, just so when I talk about invading India or down in Africa, it would be cool. Not a requirement, just if somebody wants to take the time to go in and mess around with the file, and then obviously give it over to the Black Ice people to implement it. It'd be cool. So many, and it's, yes, I know the Rhine, and I know the Meuse, and I know the Seine goes through, Paris and out. But quite honestly, I wouldn't know I wouldn't know that this branch was the Seine versus the Yonne and the Armascon or whatever. I know some of these rivers, and the Somme. I sort of knew that. you know, and yeah, I know the odor, but sometimes I'm like trying to remember what it is in the middle of just talking about BS while playing. It would be nice to have this in Hoi 4. So there is, I mean, Hoi 4 is getting a lot better, and I still quite honestly believe it's the future. Especially, I was getting really despondent about Hoi 4 until this No Step Back comes out, and that is a really good improvement of what's going on. So yeah, that is, I mean, just a minor thing, quality of life thing that is really cool. And yeah, I don't need the Baltic Sea and the North Sea put there, but still, it's cool to have. Yeah, we all know the English Channel, but again, it's cool to have, and they've done a good job of doing this. You know, we know where the Atlantic Ocean is, but cool. It's cool to have that done. Okay, well, let's continue here. I know we're just sort of looking at this and talking about this. No, this will not become a major playthrough start. If anybody's watching, and we should have done that before. Send help to Abyssinia, do nothing, we don't care, as Germany. I'm not going to do the mixed support brigades right now. And road. So we're going to do the Berghoff. And I'm guessing this 5 ICs is for all the anti-aircraft batteries, radar stations. The thing I don't like about these is Fortress level 10. I would make it Fortress level 2. And because it's not just the Berghoff that gets the Fortress level bonus, but it's the other HQ locations. I would, like I say, I would go a lot less on it than that. Okay, Total Hell, how you doing? Hey game, love having you on the background while I play my campaign. Just wanted to ask you for your 2 cents regarding the Flak 88 gun. Mainly, I saw a statistic claiming that out of the 20,000 or so made, large amounts were used on the home front as AA. Another statistic claiming that the 88 destroyed large amounts of Soviet tanks in the AT role. My question is, as it's been pointed out, that the 88 in the AA form on the home front wasn't very effective, mainly due to morale. Do you feel those guns were used? If those guns were used in the East, and the number of Soviet tanks destroyed by the 88 would. Okay, that's an interesting contemplation and worth a minute or 3 talking about it. Okay. The 88 millimeter guns that were put here in Cologne and Dusseldorf and Dortmund are cheaper than the 88 millimeter guns that were out here. Why? Okay. The 88 millimeter gun out here has 2 sections of wheels. Sort of a forward and back section of wheels that get the 88 millimeter gun has you can picture the gun, the gun barrel and the breech, all the mechanisms that sort of point the gun. Okay, well, and then there's sort of what all that is mounted on, which is like a big I figure most of you know this, is like a big T or big cross or an X, however you want to look at that, because you can line it up so it's sort of a cross or X. Okay, and so when you want to move it, you fold up two of the crosses that fold up to the side, and those are only 2 of them that can fold, and then you hook on the 2 wheeled sections onto that, and so now that gun is mobile. Okay, so the ones in the field had the 2 wheeled sections. It had the lower cross section on it, and it had the gun shield on it, and it also had one more very, very expensive thing and very important thing. at least most all of them had a large prime mover, a large half track to be able to move them around. They could be moved by trucks. I don't know of any that were moved by horses. They could be moved by horses, but I don't know as a standard, practice. I have not seen photos, and I would love for somebody, you can share it on my Discord. Maybe Arno wants to put in on Twitch and YouTube a link to the Discord if you guys want to join the Discord channel to come and hang out with us. I'd love for you to share me a photo of, if anyone ever finds one, of a Flak 88, any model of a Flak 88 being towed by horses, because I've definitely seen the 150 millimeter artillery piece, the big ones, the big howitzers, being towed by horse teams for the infantry divisions, but I've not noticed a Flak 88 being towed by horses. Maybe I've seen it, just didn't realize it. Okay, so they have an expensive prime mover, and they have all that gear, the being able to tow it. The flak gun that is placed here in Cologne, most of them, not all, but most of them, 80 to 90% of them, especially this was a Luftflak zone here. Thanks, Arno. In this area. Most of them were just the gun and the breech and the aiming mechanism mounted on top of a metal pintle type mount, just a metal point that gets concreted into a position. Okay, it doesn't even have the gun shield, the big metal shield that you're used to seeing on them in like pictures in North Africa and wherever. And so they can't even move this gun. When they were contemplating or actually withdrawing from some of these areas as the Allies were coming, they were going like, hey, we got this flak unit here. Hey, can someone get some trucks over here and crane so that we can lift the gun off the pintle mount and put it on like a flatbed something or other to lay it on its side and tow the damn thing out of here? No? Sorry, no. Okay, we're abandoning the gun and the ammunition, and the crew is hoofing it. The flak crew is hoofing it back to safety, as they're withdrawing from the west, as they were moving east. Thanks, Arno. Thanks very much. Yeah, Beam Slam. Horses could do it, because I think I've seen horses, as a normal standard piece, prior to the war, even towing the 170 millimeter big howitzers. They're the standard true heavy artillery piece, but I'm not absolutely sure on that as a standard tactical, mode for the infantry division, not an emergency like, oh shit, the vehicle's broken down, can we just get some horses to unstick and tow this thing? But as a standard practice, I don't know if horses towing the doing all that stuff. So yes, and so building that half track, especially that half track, but all the rest of the stuff as part of the thing. And you can look, and if you play Third Reich events, we do have an event that spams out a bunch of anti-aircraft in this area, and it shows a picture and a drawing of what the standard emplacement was like. And part of it isn't even like the later flak towers that are big, huge concrete things. They're just sort of entrenchments, if you will, with wooden braces on the earth and whatnot, and sort of underground storage space for ready ammunition, for one air raid or whatever worth of ammunition locally. And so they didn't even have trucks to move all of the ammunition for all of the guns, let alone move the guns or whatever. They just sort of, would shift the ammunition when and where they could, so they could have one truck that delivers a load of ammunition to one gun and then drives back to the ammo depot, because you don't have too much at each gun at any one time, and refills the guns in between flak raids. And so there's a lot more logistics and a lot more manufacture to put a flak gun operating. And this is, again, without the truck carrying the gasoline for all those half tracks and all that other logistical support elements that you're going to have a mobile, and then very well maybe a Luftwaffe flak unit that's 88s that are also being pressed into anti-tank roles on the Eastern Front, as well as sometimes being issued to Army units on the front as well. Sometimes they're issued to Army, sometimes they're issued, because some divisions do have 88, some Army divisions have 88 millimeter guns as part of their flak elements or core elements, but part of the Army, and some of them are controlled and manned by the Luftwaffe, guys in Luftwaffe uniforms, both out going through the mud and muck of the Eastern Front. So it'll be easily twice as expensive per gun to operate that gun in a mobile situation. If they permanently want to, come to Kiev here and permanently put up some flak guns, they very well may have done so. But those are going to just be flak guns and they're not going to be useful. So it isn't just this, they could have been better used. Now, you have to realize that flak guns are not as effective as their designers would like them to be. But they are still effective in that they are still saying, hey, don't fly too low. If you come over this location, we will start shooting shit up at you, and we may knock a few of you out of the sky. So fly higher, fly at night, fly in bad weather. Well, in bad weather, it's hard to precisely hit your target. So flak guns, in my opinion, have a use in World War II. I don't know whether any one area they overdid it so that it wasn't, shooting twice as much flak up in an area might not knock twice as many aircraft out of the sky, if you know what I mean. So you only need a certain amount of it going up there to be as effective as it's likely to be. At some point, it's going to be diminishing returns, whether it's night operations or day operations. But it is useful to have some flak guns over your zones. Yeah, but that's part of what we are looking at and why I like playing games like Hearts of Iron here, is the realistic, and I want to focus again on the word realistic or plausible what ifs. What if, instead of building, level 3 flak in all of these, provinces, at least the ones that get lots of industry, instead of building level 3 or something, you build level 1, you build level 2, and because those are the same ICs that you're using, and you build more, whether it's mobile flak units or you just build other things, tanks, tank destroyers, whatever it might be. It might not be, whether you want to call it heavy anti-tank or heavy flak, or just, making those choices. So yes, some of, that's partially what we can do with this game. And I don't have a solid answer on any one particular thing, but it does make reasonably good sense to put up flak guns. And we see even like Britain, you being able to use their flak guns later in the war, in this part of Britain, to shoot down V1 flying bombs coming over here, and they were able to effectively shoot them down. Now, they also had a secret weapon. They had proximity fuses. They would not allow proximity fuses to be used outside of Britain, because or maybe a few other secure places. They and it was, because it was Americans. I think it was Americans that come up with it. The proximity fuse. They're using them off the ships in the Pacific, I know, heavily, because they don't want them to somehow be captured for the Germans or the Japanese, but particularly the Germans, to get a hold of proximity fused warheads that didn't go off, because they weren't 100% working. Get a hold of an example and figure out how to make a proximity fuse themselves. So they limited its deployment here in Britain, but they were very effective. So if Germany had them, they would have been even more effective in their anti-aircraft gun needs. But yeah, anti-aircraft guns have their uses. And it isn't, just simply moving guns, but that's part of it. Interesting topic you brought up there. Tata Hell. Okay, possible crews needed, less training. We're firing OP in the air, pre-range find boxes, mobile tanks, lots of precision. Okay, yeah, now here's another thing is, and again, everybody who's watching, yes, we're going to continue to look more at Black Ice, but what you're sort of doing here is obviously hanging out with Gamer, and Gamer talks about history while we're doing all this stuff, and talking about the National Socialist regime of Germany during World War II. There is very much power politics going on in upper levels of the National Socialist regime, and there were, fiefdoms, or however you want to call them. Okay, well, one, of course, the major power players is Hermann Germain. He very much continues building a big empire within the German state. Himmler's another one who's building a very big empire within the German state. And there are others building big and small empires. Sometimes the empires might just be down in the Munich area, Christian Weber being one of the local regional empire builders. There were all these people. So Goering with the Luftwaffe is recruiting lots and lots of men, primarily, was what we're talking about, men into the Luftwaffe. Well, as the situation goes on the Eastern Front, they need more manpower. And basically, they come and go, we've got this bloated Luftwaffe. We need more men on the Eastern Front. Now, my understanding is some of the bloat is, and again, this is my understanding because I haven't read every book, I don't know all the details, but some of the understanding is a lot of these major air bases have fairly large staff on there, but they don't all have fairly large numbers of squadrons, whether they be bombers or fighters on them, because they get moved around. So some of it is they got too many people operating in the ground support elements for the air. It's felt. The other area is where there's bloat, they feel, and I do believe so, is in the Luft Flak Corps, the guys that shoot it up in the air. So there's basically a demand to move a lot of that personnel. I forget the year, probably 43, but 42 or 43. I think it's 43. There's a big demand to move them to the Eastern Front. Well, Goering doesn't want to give these people up. And Goering already, of course, from the early days has the, the parachutes that are, the Fallschirmjägers are Luftwaffe, not Army. And he's already, by this point, setting up and has been going, the Hermann Göring Division, which is theoretically an airborne armored division. Oh, and I don't know, D-Safe never did answer. I don't know if you didn't hear me or just don't want to answer. What's the thought of removing special purpose, if you're still around, armor from air transport or airdrop ability? I just want the thought why you're thinking that before I jump in on why I think you may be wrong, but maybe you have a good point there. But not just special purpose armor being a air supposedly parachute armored division. Supposedly, they also have heavy armor. Sturmgeschütz and other Stugs and other things. They have as in the unit, so it really isn't an airborne armor division. It's an armor division that has airborne troops in it. Hello, Daniel. And so he thinks, well, instead of giving up all these men, why don't we just create Luftwaffe field divisions? And that's because it's hard to, power politics and the way Hitler runs the regime. It's hard to control some of these people. So that's the compromise that is settled on. So large amounts of Luftwaffe flak personnel get hasty ground training, ground combat training, and get sent to the Eastern Front with all new equipment. And it's been a long time, and I didn't fully read his book, but Tigers in the Mud by, and I don't like blank on, somebody remember the tiger ace who survived. I think the thought is that they would only represent amphibious armor. Actually, I don't know. I didn't know it was droppable until. So you didn't know it was droppable. Well, you see, the idea is special purpose armor, and that's why it's not called amphibious armor, it's called special purpose armor, is that it was supposed to be air transportable. We can see the Germans transporting 38Ts and other lighter vehicles via the air into, Tunisia once they get there with the gig ants, and the Americans come up with the M22 little 3-man tank, and the Americans, the actual American armed forces go, nah, we don't like it, but the British go, cool, we want those, and they put them in gliders and land them in the I don't know. I don't think they used them. Maybe they used them in the Arnhem launch, or coming one of the things they used a bunch of M22s. Now these are just light tanks, very light tanks in the as an air, not just an air transportable, flying from an airbase to an airbase landing armor. That's what the Germans did. The British used American-made tanks to do offensive air landings into hostile territory, again with light tanks, and that's why they're special purpose and they're not proper big heavy stuff. Not sure about the historical technological situation, but I would guess that the tech just wasn't there for it to be droppable. Perhaps we can make a separate unit. Well, basically, okay, it wasn't droppable, but it was. The British used gliders, offensive gliders, because when you're talking about, like for D-Day, the Americans didn't drop any jeeps, but they landed jeeps and gliders. You can see John Wayne in The Longest Day riding around in an American jeep that came, on the first night of the landings of, and that's why the German light vehicle is air transportable as well, is that represents the ability to. For Germany, it represents more the ability to fly in, fly from. Crete to land at some field airbase here, or even or fly into here, but just field airbase to land in controlled territory. For the Allies, it's being able to land somewhat motorized forces like jeeps on night one before the landing of the troops, that they were landing jeeps as well. The Americans were doing it, but again, those were glider landings. And some of the gliders actually were recovered and reused. The British thought of their gliders more as reusable. The Americans thought of them more as a one and done and scrapped them. Okay, yeah, I know it can't differentiate between air droppable and air transportable, but I just make them air droppable. Hello, Anne. Well, this is in development by D-Safe here and others on the Black Ice team, and doing a very good job of Black Ice. And I really think so. Again, I have disagreements, but I think they're doing a very, very good job. So I just may, with TRE, go in and muck around with the special purpose armor and put it back to air droppable, because that's why we call it special purpose in the first place and not just amphibious. Because early on, I believe it was just amphibious early on, but we had talks way back when. You had a big transporter who could, that was the gig ants. Well, see, that's every unit is air transportable in real life, but in the game doesn't have that feature. The gig ant. Well, you see, now the gig ants were designed as a glider, but the Germans did not have an aircraft that could tow it. And when they tried to use two aircrafts to tow it, it didn't work out so well. I think Hannah Reich, the woman pilot, was one of the few that they tried to put, like, was it two JUs together, wings to make a a 6-engine aircraft. She was one of the people that could sort of fly the tow planes, but it was really dangerous, and so they gave up on it as a single-use glider that it was meant to be. The Gigant was meant to be a single-use glider, potentially for invading Britain or someplace like that. But here's the whole thing is that years ago I saw a thread discussing, this is before Hearts of Iron 4 came out. I think it was still in one of Hearts of Iron 3. They were talking about airdroppable stuff and supplies. You shouldn't be able to supply units that don't have an airbase. Have you ever tried, and these were some people that I believe had the military, how difficult it is to drop fuel from the air? Okay, right. But in this game, at this scale, every single one of these provinces, every single one, if you can get men on it, probably even here, that there's somewhere flat enough that 50 guys with handsaws can quickly clear an airfield to air land it on it. Okay, so the paratroopers fall out of the sky in their parachutes and land and secure this province. Now, immediately, a bunch of them can, cut trees or whatever and create a flat enough space somewhere so that aircraft that can take off from, over here can land light vehicles, like we see Kuba wagons being loaded into the 3-engine JUs, or the big Gigants, can land, offload their cargo, and this is including for air supply for ground units, just regular ground units. That's why you can do air supply. They can land, offload their cargo, but there is no facilities to refuel the aircraft. There are no facilities to repair the aircraft. There are no facilities to rearm, putting more bullets into aircraft. So there is no air base here, but they can create an emergency landing strip to bring in things like a few tanks, a few special purpose tanks. They can't bring in, because the Germans didn't have an aircraft that could carry a Panther tank or a Tiger tank in it and land it, ready for combat. I think the American one-off Spruce Goose could have done that, but that's about it. They only had one of them, and it flew very briefly here in California, 20 or 30 feet off the water, but they never flew again. Probably could have flown, they just never flew it again. They weren't even supposed to fly it the one time, but they did. So most every province out here, and I would, that there's an infrastructure level that you can put troops into, so maybe something, out in the Himalayas, or maybe some of these jungle provinces, but just about every province out here that you can create a landing field that you can offload your special purpose vehicles, and the aircraft can fly back to its airbase. So it has to be able to do everything round trip. It's not fly here to land here and get refueled and fly back. It's fly, land, unload, fly back, get maintenance. This is a maintenance facility, not an emergency air landing facility or a temporary brief facility. I need to get a drink. Facility. I know I can speak here. So yes, every unit. Yeah. So yeah, every unit is that. So just to let it drip. The Gigant. Off topic. Did you play the game Blitzkrieg? I think if I know what you're talking about, some Blitzkrieg 3? Is that what's up on my channel? A better game might link those abilities to infrastructure of the province. Yeah, but if we're talking most provinces here that we can move cores on. Well, I'm going to grab a Coke, and I'll be right back in a moment, because I do need to take something to drink to keep talking to all of you. reading. I mean the old original Blitzkrieg. You mean old Panzer Blitz? The board game? Is that what you're talking about? Panzer Blitz and Panzer Leader? Yeah, I played those old games. If you're talking about a computer game, it's just Blitzkrieg 3. But if you're talking about the old tabletop board game, Panzer Blitz, yeah, I played that a lot way back in the 80s. They still have it somewhere, but... So, okay, Germany, I believe, is heavy aircraft, gasoline, welded armor. This is historical. And what is it? US, I think Krupp cemented closed hangar would be historically, yes, allow these events. So, yes, I'm reading the chat from both sides here. Okay, we got that. Not going to do the mixed support. Have you or the AR successfully invaded the UK, the US, or you as the Axis? Is it possible? Absolutely. You can look at my earlier playthroughs. I have invaded those very successfully. I do so after taking out the Soviet Union. But yes, I've done so. You can see on for Britain, just normally able to overwhelm and get in there. For America, I do two-prong approach. One prong is come north around here, taking these in succession, landing in Canada. The other prong is after getting Africa, come across, invade across into here and come up through the Caribbean and land and push sort of two-prong in up from here instead of trying to come across a big invasion here. So yeah, I have done so. And we have done that. Okay. We're not doing the mixed support. Let's continue sort of playing here. We are just sort of playing here, looking at the wonderful work of the Black Ice team. Radius, okay, and we also want to reduce, well, down to about there, lock that in. Diplomacy, let's just go down to about here. And to right close. I know I could just maybe that. Spying, well, let's give it a few spies. We're going to try to spy on things. PC game Blitzkrieg made by developers in Netherlands. And I don't know if I have. I don't know. It's like Blitzkrieg 3. I have some videos on the channel. I played that, but I don't. If there's some other game, I don't know that I played it. There's a lot that I have not played. Okay, let's come down here. Yeah. Grab this. Researching here. This and this are mutually exclusive, so you don't want to research that if you want to do the other. I'm not sure which is better. One adds toughness, the other one adds defense. Stuff to research here. Let's start researching. Basic torpedoes. Oh, another thing, if you're listening, and I don't know if you're taking any notes or care, from what I've read, hydrophones do not work on motor torpedo boats, according to United States studies during World War II. So they should not be sub-detection for this. Either if you are driving the motor torpedo boat, vroom, The engine is too noisy to hear anything with the hydrophone. If you you turn off the engine, you get blap, 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 blap as the waves hit the motor torpedo boat, disrupting the hydrophone. It doesn't work. I mean, if you're in like a still harbor or a lake, it'll work. But if you go out into the seas or oceans, it doesn't work. You need something like a torpedo boat or bigger. Now, if you want to put on actual sonar, actual ASW sonar on a motor torpedo boat, which they did do, that will work. But hydrophones, just listening for sounds under the water, does not work on motor torpedo boats. They need to be guided in by other things. What do you think of airdroppable armored cars? Well, that works. But it was not really done. You know, because I'm thinking of the reconnaissance. See, the idea is, well, within the game, is that's a recon unit, the armored cars. The special purpose armor is sort of an armor unit that's not a reconnaissance unit. And they should be sort of expensive. They should be definitely expensive as in, a weight, which I think they were. I don't know if they should be heavier or lighter in, airlift transport weight for a special purpose armor. Like you say, anything can be done. Because I really appreciated the way that. Well, I'll tell you right now, I would scrap. Or I mean, it's probably too late to scrap, but I would not necessarily do these. Okay. It just, now maybe, and I did read that you do change some things here, but these in combat seem to take lots and lots of damage. And just the way the game handles them, I don't know that it does it right. I think that's a great idea. I just don't know that it works. Where, instead of just have a bunch of different, towing possibilities for all this artillery, might be better. But I really appreciated the idea that the German light vehicle is airdroppable, because it represents the ability to airdrop / transport light vehicles. And if you want to motorize up a force like the Paratroopers, that works. I like that motorcycle reconnaissance is air transportable as well, because we clearly see them doing that, putting the motorcycles into aircraft to then fly them and land them into place. And they would, I don't know for like a fact they did, but they would fly in things like the motorcycles after they secured the airfields on landings like in Crete and whatnot. I'm not sure that they used them then, but they definitely used them at times like that once they secure air bases. So having motorcycle reconnaissance, whether it's motorcycle or just light vehicle reconnaissance, jeeps and whatnot, does work for me. Ultimately, favorite mods excluding. Do you prefer at this point? Right now, I prefer Hearts of Iron 3 Black Ice with the sub mods. The last time I played Hearts of Iron, well, I'm going to have to see when the mods come out for Hearts of Iron 4. No Step Back. See how it goes. I don't like what the Black Ice team of Hearts of Iron 4 has done with some of the stuff. They made, in my opinion, Russia super hard to invade. And there's whole rant videos that I've done it. So yeah, Hearts of Iron 3, but Hearts of Iron 4 with the new railway system is really exciting me. I like that. Been playing some of that, as you may know. So we've got a lot more to choose from here. Let's check here. Okay, any 36, got that 136. Six, 1936, 1936, 34. And generally speaking, not absolutely, but it seemed to me special purpose armor was very weak. So it was never going to be a, now maybe you've changed it into being things like considered more like the Shermans, you know, the amphibious, the DD Shermans, with the it's dual drive is what it stands for, and that it has a specific drive propeller behind it. And the Germans did do like Panzer 1s and not Panzer 1s, Panzer 2s and Panzer 3s that were floating vehicles or river crossing vehicles. They did do some that were snorkel kind of vehicles that, you know, yeah, just drive them off there and go under the water. You'll be fine. Don't worry about it. I'm sure I want to do that. Whether across a river or across off a boat into the water that you don't know what's down at the bottom. Yeah, not my favorite thing to do. The snorkel versions. But I consider them to be either something like a Sherman, but relatively few of them, or light vehicles like the M22 that the Americans made, or 38Ts that could be air transportable. You know, in a glider, if you're going to use a single-use glider, and you could, you know, you can, whether it be, and I'm not talking about as the pilots, but you could suicide in a gigant. You know, just, okay, there's the field, try to land in it as gently as possible. Hopefully we'll be able to recover it afterwards. You know, meaning if you can't, you know, there's no, you know, specific landing field, just sort of on, you know, various fields. But even, you know, even a forest like this, there's normally, the parachutists could land and cut enough trees down to land. Most aircraft, if there's not roads or something that they could quickly expand to find a landing zone. And yeah, infrastructure or terrain type might have an effect, but since we can't be too precise, normally there's enough open space somewhere to be able to get stuff down, even if you can't take it back off, you know, that's relatively safely, and then you can come in there and salvage it if you win. Machine gun focus, yay, how much more? Okay, one more. Oh, here, yes, we have some 36, there we go. Okay, so we got that. I'm not going to do the mixed support brigades right now. Now, we're also going to see about, though we've sort of spoiled some of our chances, but let's see if we can sell these people some good German-made products. The USA. Maybe they'll buy. No, not that much. We're just doing opening trade moves. See if Britain. best to do some of these before you occupy the Rhineland. Yeah. So you can start getting some sales going to like France, Britain, which won't like you later, but maybe keep the trade up and going. Okay, let's see if we can. And Czechoslovakia. Austria. They might buy a few. We sort of want to influence them to like us. Belgium. Bulgaria. One, two, yeah, just to get good diplomatic relations with some of these people. Maybe not. Okay, we'll get one going there. Italy, do you? Yes, you got plenty of money right now. No, you're not going to go for. Maybe you'll go for some fuel. Yeah, okay. There we go. Sell them some fuel. Romania. Then a little bit maybe. There we go. Hopefully that will get us. Oh, I see you've moved this over to the side here. That's nice. I like it over here, where it pops up. Oh, Red Black Ice, I bet it's because many vets found USSR too easy to invade. Yeah, I don't know if they've changed it. And I have rant videos and demonstrations. It just, as soon as it got anywhere in here, it had massive negative supply effects. And everyone is trying to tell me, well, you just need to play it more carefully, gamer, blah, 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 blah. The supply effects that they were having that were literally, you know, along this first edge here at the time, and this was more than a year ago now. They very well may have changed things, but back then should be the supply effects out in here, and I would be agreeing with you. It was just where they were, and they should have gotten progressively worse, yes, as you move east. I wasn't like knocking that they had these effects, but they were triggered for me right on the very front of the provinces in good weather. You know, this wasn't the middle of winter. This wasn't, you know, you're not supposed to be advancing, you know, through the snows. No, this was good weather, bad stuff. And that soured me on Black Ice. Someday I'll try it again. But it just really was just overly done, in my opinion. Not that I couldn't win somehow, but it was just too much. Volkswagen, that'll have been a huge export success, and their bombers started to develop as civilian transports, many of them. Yes, well, now Volkswagen doesn't come along until a bit later than 36, and most of them end up being produced as Kubelwagens, because that's the same factory that produces the Volkswagen, does the German Jeep, if you will. Okay, I thought yeah, let's just get this ticked up here a little bit. Walk it in. Let's go a little bit there. And also, let's come over here. Let's find places like here, where you have heavy industry particularly. Yeah. Government normally doesn't decide where things like industry are being built. Normally I say that because yes, towards the end of the war, they were building at least assembly facilities for the Me-262 inside of mountains, and of course that's being decided by the government. But in this stage in Germany, basically 99% of all of these things were being decided by industry, not by government. Now, what they were doing was looking at, well, how many aircraft are you going to want? Goering or whoever is in charge of the artillery purchasing in the army. How many artillery pieces do you think you'll want over the next year, or the next 5 years, or something like that? And then figuring out, should they expand their facilities? Is there interest in expanding their facilities? And if so, yes, okay, then we're going to, let's move these two to the top. Those up to the top too. Let's get those out and done. Okay, well, that's good for a start. Is this, like I say, this is not going to be the start. So I'll restart over if I'm going to keep playing for a long time. Yeah, some of their bombers were at least, publicly stated as being for civilian transport, and the Ju-52, the trimotor transport plane that we all know and love from World War II for Germany, was definitely used as a bomber in the Spanish Civil War. They, made internal bomb racks in it. You can't readily, you can have some people in it, but it's not set up as a normal transport airplane. Now, another thing they did do, because they were making fast aircraft that would not fit a lot of people in them, but twin engine, they called them mail planes, and they were being sold and actually used a bit for carrying, forget the German term for the post office at the time. And they were using them as fast mail planes running around. So in what was otherwise bomb bays, now they weren't dropping the mail from the aircraft, they were landing and people taking it out, but they were like going, hey, these are mail planes. And no, I hate these, so I'm so glad they are. Okay, yes, the various effects, resource shortages. Is there something I'm supposed to move to the top yet? No. Okay, yeah, we've got a lot. We need rare materials. Here, I'm going to get the Soviets. I think we'll, how bad are we? No, we're going to skip the Americans. You want to, as much as possible, trade with the Soviets more than the Americans. That's also historical. I would say there's a, well, I don't know if there's more, but there's a lot of trade going on with the Soviet Union and Nazi Germany. The German anti-tank gun is a licensed product from Germany. Now, the Soviets built it in a 47mm gun instead of a 37mm gun, but it's virtually the same gun. I don't know if it was BMW or Z-Puds or however you say it, or one of the major motorcycle with sidecar was also set up a German factory. Well, the Germans came in and set up the factory to produce it in the Soviet Union, the motorcycles with sidecars or motorcycles without sidecars, either way. But for Russia, during the National Socialist regime, not just before Hitler's in power, but when Hitler's in power. So they set up the Soviet motorcycles. Russia has an inability to make large steel things, so they buy again from National Socialist Germany. This is, I don't know the exact year of it. It could be like 36, could be 35, could be 37. I don't know. Big steel rolling mill to build, big steel. And, Germany's like, well, yeah, okay, we could sell this to the Soviets. They're going to build a few battleships. maybe, but we don't really care. Do we care, guys, if we sell this stuff to the Soviets? They can't build it themselves. Literally, they can't build it themselves. So do we sell them? The Germans? Yeah, okay, yeah, go ahead. We'll sell you some of these 1 or 2 or whatever number of big steel rolling things. Without those machines, the Soviets couldn't have built the T-34 or the KV-1. Germany hands the Soviet Union, at least not in the time frame. I mean, not that they couldn't eventually work their way up, build the tools to make the tools to make the tools to make the tools that make the thing. Not that they couldn't have gotten there, but they had no way of getting there in that amount of time. So had the Germans not turned over the armor rolling steel machine to the Soviets and sold it to them, there wouldn't have been a T-34 or a KV-1 to worry about. They would have been running around with all those thinner armored units because they couldn't make thicker armor. Yeah. And the Germans are also building it was either a heavy cruiser or another pocket battleship. I forget which. But during this is after the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact happens and after Poland's end over, Germany sells one to the Soviet Union. It's not complete. It needs to be completed, but it has, I think, 2 of its gun turrets on it. And it spends the war up here in Leningrad firing at the Germans because it's just sitting in port, and they use it as a major artillery piece against the Germans. So the Germans sell a major ship to the Soviets. Yeah. Sort of not maybe the best decisions. So, just think of a what if the Soviets do not have T-34s or KVs during World War II. So they have things like BT-7s, the big, what are they? T-28s, those are the big things with the big, single turret on it and 2 machine gun turrets, or even the even larger T-35 that has, 5 turrets on it, but those don't have that thick of armor. Or they have the little T-26 small tanks. Yeah, those are your choices, Soviets. That's it. See ya. Do you think the Germans could have won just without giving them the T-34 or the ability to make T-34? Oh, no, the Americans could be sending them Shermans, of course. The British could be sending them Comets or whatever. Yeah. Okay, the Condor and the HE-111 are the only ones besides the Ju-54, which is regular civilian transporters. The D-117 series are more of a mail plane, but with provision for... Yeah, you could put a few personnel in it, but it's not like many, like 4 or 6 or something in it. DO-117, yeah. The Condor was primarily a civilian transport, always through to the end. They pressed it into military service, but it just wasn't strong enough for that, really. I think they lost more... not sure, but I think they lost more Condors on landing accidents than they did from enemy engagements. And so they were cracking up because they were overloaded and stressed too much, too long, and they were cracking up on landing. Now, I don't know that the crews were necessarily being lost by that. It just, coming in a little too hard and the frame cracking and not realizing you can't fly the aircraft anymore. And you just scrap it. Maybe they had a copy of After the War, so. Yeah, okay, well, yeah, you could do it, but it's the idea of how thick of armor you can manufacture is the point. Not whether you can make something in the shape of a KV-1 or the shape of a T-34. It's how thick you can get the armor from those vessels or from those tanks to be manufactured. That is... Okay, let's see what we're going to... Let's shift these down to the bottom. We're going to have the ones that are near to completion first. Yeah, that looks somewhat better to use to the here. So yeah, choices made. That's where history is really fascinating to me. You know, this I'm gonna get rid of all upgrades for now, and we're going to reduce reinforcements down early on. This I think is important to do because of the way Waffen SS. Okay, I think I did historical on the SS. Hope I did. The button right. Where before you could just simply get units and move them to the bottom here and only build them when you want them to. Now that they have the taking off the ICs up here, it's better to do the upgrades later. That's what I keep forgetting to do. Okay. I get sick of fiddling with some of these. The one thing I really wish, hey, I don't know if you're still there, D-Safe, could you build a way in so that I could set these, be able to set any one of these to meet requirements, whatever the requirement is. Not, because I know there is the prioritized upgrades. Now, I'm not talking about prioritize. I'm talking about purely meet requirements. So if I want to go consumer goods, constantly shift to meet requirements. That would be a wonderful quality of life improvement so that I don't have to fiddle with that ever again if I choose to. I do like the idea of, you know, be able to put it entirely on manual if you so wish to. Currently, we are, oh, no, nothing's hit yet. Okay, well, we haven't even been 15 days in it. Okay, well, let's take a look here. And yeah, I this could be on another screen. Okay. Let's do daily building and resource counts. We're going to turn this on. I'm going to move it up off there and Alt-Tab back. Let's have this. There we go. Nope. Why are we getting war exhaustion low already? Huh? I don't know if you're still there, D-Safe, but why do we have this? How can we have war exhaustion? Well, I guess it's not active. Okay. Okay, it's not active. Or is it active? No, it's not. Okay, it's not active yet. Okay, it's just showing up here. Sorry, never mind, never mind. I'm just still learning how this works. Yes, we'll give you energy. Still learning how this works. I'm not entirely sure about this mechanic. I think even they were saying they were going to see about. Okay, well, all of these just popped up. Research labs. Anything we need to do here? No, okay. Yeah, Look at the Siegfried line. Didn't they build that line first on the Upper Rhine from Switzerland instead of the Rhine area? Well, this is incorrect. This is a holdover, in my opinion, from. Oh well, let's occupy the Rhineland. We haven't officially done that yet. This should not be here because they did not build any of this at this point. Third Reich Events removes all of this when Third Reich Events starts. Hello, Ragar. How you doing? So yeah, no, this is all 100% incorrect, and I'm not blaming, other than that they haven't removed it. I'm not blaming Black Ice because it's what starts as Hoi 3 starts that way for it. Third Reich Events has events that it's called the Pioneer Program, and that's what starts building the West Wall, as the Germans would call it until later. I think they always call it the West Wall. I don't think we can add new kind of AI sliders. All settings are already set. Consumer good to the minimum. Yeah, I didn't know if on your utility screen thing you might be able to do that. I don't know. You're doing wonderful magic. I never thought you could do an external utility. So yeah, this is not appropriate, as in historical. I think it's as much about players and not wanting to micromanage building fortresses. Well, Sweden wants to become our friends. I mean, this is about the speed that I feel safe to play, because as soon as I do that, it just like zips along way too fast to respond. I wish there was some intermediate speed. No. Give them money for rare materials. No. I kind of remember when Hitler went to inspect fortifications that were supposed to be opposing the measure line. He sees three weird things, and next week, zero after the effort. Yeah, there should be no fortifications. Yeah, and I do have an event that he does go and tour the development of the West Wall. Yeah. Did also not build in the corner of Luxembourg. Well, they extended it all the way up to here. The extension is here, and Third Reich Events does cover sort of what is called the Aachen extension, or some words to that element that they do extend it up all along through here. Now, definitely facing Belgium. I don't know how much facing Luxembourg specifically, but they definitely come up through basically to the edge of the Rhine here. But see how the river is here? This should probably be one province here, but the AI won't handle it well, because this was undefended here, this part of the Saar area, and they built the defenses back here a bit. So, behind the river, if you will. So that's a minor thing, but still. Try with it on and turn it off. Okay, so we do have, it's still on, yeah, daily. So let's go up to, okay, well, start the program. Okay, yeah, I'm seeing the pauses. Absolutely. Let's turn it off. False. Okay, and now, yeah, barely. Yeah, it runs much faster. Winter sports, yes, we're ready. Lots of supplies, probably more than you need, but okay. That's why you need to build lots and lots of supplies. New campaign. Well, this isn't the start of a campaign. This is just today looking at the new Black Ice 11. Yeah. And this is just out. DSafe is one of the main developers of it who's here, who is answering my questions. And okay, so we have strategic trading resource here. Okay. Let's come here. Let's see. Do we not have zinc supplies? Thought we should have zinc. Yeah, why don't we have zinc? That's weird. It activates in February. Okay, activates in February. That's good. I'm just more curious. Okay, so trading resources postponed. Okay, invest zinc mine there. We're ignoring the postpone our mine plans. Mine investment zinc. Okay. Let's just hit postpone that. We're gonna hit 6 months so we don't have to bother with all of that. Okay. Well, let's slow this down just a little bit. Yes, you may have energy, Italy. Okay, DSafe, thank you so much for answering all the questions and everything. I really do appreciate you being here. Really appreciate all your work on Black Ice. Again, for any quibbles I have, I love what you're doing. I really appreciate the hard work, so thanks so much. Tell the rest of the team, thank you. And I will be making soon a tutorial on how to use the little new utility now that I understand it better and can explain it to people, I hope, correctly. So have a good night. So yeah, yes, definitely first look here. Okay, so we have zinc. Did I miss the above question? We were talking about some of the stuff, and it should be showing up on your screen on YouTube. You should see the questions on the screen from Twitch. It's not the other way around, unfortunately. We were talking, I think, about the Maginot line, but I'm not sure. Or activates. No, we were talking about this here, and this is what we were talking about: the zinc surplus. Germany has a zinc surplus. That's the only thing that it has a big enough natural supply that it controls. These are the things, all the things that it doesn't control, that we could trade for. We're not trading right now. We don't have enough money. I don't want to trade for it with not enough money. I want to build up my money reserves. Okay, and we want to come here and we want to hit order this. This just gets that going. Nothing happens with that yet. It will. Something will happen later on. Okay, no longer receive money from Sweden. Let's see if we can with Sweden here. Sweden, hello. Okay, you have some money, and you have okay. Well, let's wait a day. I normally say no. Yeah, budget. We're worried about our budget. Willie Messerschmitt. This is the thing. I wish DSafe was still around. This is what we're getting here. I guess this is right. Until April, we'll grant Messerschmitt. January. Well, this seems to come up periodically here. The sort of budget or the bonuses that Willie Messerschmitt gives seems overly done. We're going to appease them. That would be the historical. As we can quickly go here. This is currently the Revolt Risk in Germany. Only in it, this is when this fire isn't about now. It shouldn't, well, it should depend on what you pick. You can send in the security forces or the Goon Squads. Send in the Goon Squads. I like that. See, Germany did two things, is the way I would see it, is they had the Goon Squads, the SA, the police, and at this time in 36, to a lesser degree, the SS. The SA are always still a very prominent thing, and you'd see that as with Third Reich events. But they also appeased them. I would say appeasement. They really, and it reduces money. They do a lot of stuff that I would say is appeased. The Goon Squads are for the people that don't fit the National Socialist narrative. Whether they're communists or international socialists, or they're Jews, or people like the gypsies, they're often mentioned, or the mentally deficient, or the physically handicapped types, or just the other sort of troublemaker types. It's the Goon Squad, okay? They're, I think it was in 1933, May Day, the first May Day of the Nazi regime. The Nazis go, hey, let's celebrate a super big May Day, and let's go talk to our friends, the socialists, and they'll hold this big super May Day celebration on, the 5th of May, I believe that's, or is it the first? No, it's the 1st of May. Cinco de Mayo here from Southern California is the 5th of May. Obviously, the 5th of May, that's what I think. The 1st of May. So for the 1st of May, let's, they go talk to the socialist labor unions all over Germany, and let's do a big joint May Day celebration. The socialists go, yeah, cool, let's do a big joint. So they have this huge May Day celebration. And I think it's like maybe the next day or 2 or 3 days later, but it's like the next Saturday, all over Germany, every single socialist labor union, because it's sort of it's the German, it's the DAF, the Deutsches Arbeitersfront is what puts this on, the German Workers' Front, with the various socialist unions. They're both sort of union organizations. They go raid the headquarters of every single socialist labor union in Germany, seize all of the files they can get, membership files, those kinds of things, and arrest all of the leaders that they had just the day before been on stage with celebrating May Day. Now, I think the guys get out of jail or concentration camp eventually, but you're now a marked man. You're now just a worker in a factory. You're no longer a labor leader. You've seen the inside of a camp. You know what a quarantine camp looks like. Oops, sorry, I shouldn't be saying that about Australia. But you know what the inside of a camp looks like, and you better behave unless you want to go back into that camp. So they arrest not all the labor. The labor union, the socialist labor union workers, but all the leadership of it, and break up all the labor unions basically the day or two after the big joint celebration. So Germany, the Nazis are very much that if you fit the narrative, if you're the right type of person, it's appease. It's give you do their very best to make life easy for you. But if you don't fit that narrative, it's the Goon Squad for you. And if you're not compliant, if you resist, if you're a religious school, there was bunches of religious schools, both in Protestant and in Catholic Germany, but where they really resist are the Catholic, well, also some of the Protestant religious schools, really, and continue to resist the idea. At first, it just put the picture of Hitler up in your school. I mean, they want to erase all of the religious schools, but they know if they go in on day one in 1933, they'll be too much of a revolt. So they just put pressure on the religious schools and work to eventually get rid of them. But it's over years it takes to do it. So so if you put the picture of Hitler up in our religious school next to the picture of Jesus or the Pope or whatever, great, no problem. But eventually they wear you down, and so those that resist get the Goon Squad. Those that go along, they spend a lot to keep you happy. Sorry for the confusion. A ways back on YouTube, I asked if you could remember a recent episode where you do the BI for USSR supply penalty rant. Just interested in the USSR invasion. Okay, that would be the last play. I think the last 2 episodes or something of the Black Ice, last Black Ice Germany playthrough is where it happens, because I just rage quit. And so it's end of the series. You can look for look at the playlists. Go to you can just click on it. You go to Hearts of Iron 4 playlists. Most of them are listed there. Definitely that Black Ice one is there. And go look for the most recent one playing as Germany. I forget what I titled it. And it's like the last 2 episodes, and the last one is the real rant, and the first one sort of leads up to it, dealing with that. So yeah, no, I talk about why I rage quit. That it just frustrates me too much. No, none of the explanations, and some of the people that I know that were working on the development, I wasn't upset with them as people. I was just raging at the game that they had created by, because I'm a game creator. No, I don't create a base level game. I modify a game, but I'm modifying the game, not just, give it a different color counter. I'm creating enough of a different game. So I go in and I modify, like the Black Ice team here they're game creators. They're creating this game. They're building on top of, yes, Paradox's work, most assuredly, but they're doing much more than I'm doing as a single individual, with help from other people, including, I want to stress, DSafe has been very kind and very helpful to me, very helpful. So yeah, and so I'm raging at and again, some of them I would count as friends, at what they're doing, and they're trying to explain to me, well, no, you just need to be more careful about how you manage your attacks, and I'm literally talking about invading former Lithuanian territory or former Polish territory, not, in which I could maybe 100% agree if we were out here, and 50% agree, or the difficulty levels, if we were here, kind of thing. It goes, in my opinion, sort of from 0 to 100 right along here, as where, and it should be the 100 out here, and it should be 0 here, and gradually get worse. And you can, I think, again, I haven't looked into their mechanics in detail, just because I haven't been bothered enough to want to try to mod what they do, and to look into how they do it, and to see how I would change it. But with the Hearts of Iron 4 state mechanics, which I hate, but since it exists, is just do, this state has this effect or no effect. This state has effect level 2. This state somewhere in here has effect level 4. This state, and just gradually make it worse or something. Then I would be totally on board with what I was seeing. But just the way it was at the time, I just lost all interest in Hoi 4 Black Ice. And I have other disagreements with World Ablaze, but trying to remember his name. I blank on names, and you may think, well, you don't hardly know him. Well, I'm picturing his sort of icon face pretty clearly. I'm trying to put the name next to him. He also then shows up for the live things there too when he knows. Really good guy. He has an industrial exhaustion that very much comes, I would say, from the TIK, if you know who the YouTuber, which I like a lot of his stuff, camp on it, but I think it's overplayed for the time period, time scale, shall we say. War exhaustion, we'll see how this goes. It's definitely a thing. War exhaustion is an exhausting thing, most assuredly. But But I'm trying to think, and I've read books like Hitler's Empire, recently within the last few years, and these books have been published recently, so they represent sort of recent. Because I've also read books that were either I read them, well, no, not in the 1970s. I read them maybe in the 1980s or 1990s, but stuff that was published in the 1970s. But people have done more research and have better grasp of things since then. Doesn't mean like. Really good book. John Toland's Adolf Hitler 2-volume set. Really good. It's old now, but really good look at Adolf Hitler. So old doesn't mean bad, but books like Hitler's Compromises, Hitler's Empire, that the authors have looked in at original source material. And I'm trying to, and what I know of America and what I know of Britain. War exhaustion. Yes, war exhaustion definitely was hitting Britain. I'm trying to picture war exhaustion in Germany. Maybe, there's where I see exhaustion for Germany, war exhaustion, is the bombing campaigns. So, and I don't know, exactly how, because they say part of it will just simply be time at war. And so I don't know about that. I really don't know about that. Because if we were to, yes, Pinamundi, build facility, you want to do this. I'll say, this is one of my events that I gave over to Black Ice to use internally. There are a few others, but you want to come down here immediately and move it to the top. One, if you don't, the progress will be reset way down in here. Two, another reason you want to, that's the primary reason. Secondary reason, it will give building practicals. So we could have dropped it on the map, straight into the map, but it won't give practical bonuses to your other things. I don't know. We'll see about the war exhaustion. How long does it take to set in? Hungary. We would give them crude oil each day in exchange for money. No, thank you. We want all of our crude oil. Regarding the hypothetical about no T-34, it's very interesting. To me, it was really more that they had so many tanks at all, rather than the T-34s themselves. No, the T-34 comes as a major shock. The T-34 and the KV ones are also there. You have to remember the German anti-tank gun is the 37mm anti-tank gun. And that includes for tanks as well as towed anti-tank pieces. They're already looking at upgrading to a 50mm gun just from the experiences of France. But to the best of my knowledge, and it's pretty good, but I'm not 100% on anything, knowledge. To the best of my knowledge, all Soviet armor prior to the T-34 and the KV-85, or the KV-1s, I should say, all of the Soviet armor can readily be penetrated at most engagement ranges by the 37mm guns. The T-34s and definitely the KV-85, or the KVs, keep wanting to say 85, KVs cannot be penetrated by them, at least in their frontal main armor. Yeah, you can track them, yeah, you can damage them, but so they cannot be defeated by what is the main guns on most tanks and in their frontal armor, and cannot be defeated by most of the anti-tank guns that are in service. That is a huge impact on Germany. Now, Germany, like I say, is already pushing for the 50 millimeter gun. They sort of, and I'd have to look at the dates on it. They rush into service. This is sometimes this where I get, so again, everything I'm saying here is historical commentary. Don't take it as hard facts and going from memory. Is looking at it, is they come out with a medium length 50 millimeter tank gun barrel, because that's what they can do now. We're ready for this now. You want this now? This is what we have now. Where they're planning on, and they eventually get a longer barreled 50 millimeter gun, but they rush in that that shorter 50 millimeter gun because of threats. And they doing it. So and they're rushing out, and they eventually do get the PaK 38, which is the long-barreled 50 millimeter, and a very similar gun, KWK something 38, I think. KWK 38 is the tank-mounted version of it. Shoots the same ammo, same length of gun. It's more the mounting brackets on it and stuff, or either in a tank or on the ground or in a tank destroyer type thing, which is more like the ground mounting. That they're rushing to do. They're already looking at using captured Soviet. Well, they've already been using Czech, or either captured and taking over Czechoslovakia, or manufactured after the Czech tank, or taking over Czechoslovakia. The Czech 47 millimeter high velocity gun, a very, very good gun, that they use a few of those in the invasion of France, mounted on Panzer I chassis, the Jag Panzer I. So they're already looking at upgunning things. But so they rush those into the field. It takes a while. Well, without that, without the ability to manufacture the T-34, you don't have to rush those in. All of the German tanks are still effective against all the Soviets can make. Now, the Soviets can make enough bigger guns, powerful guns, 85. They're already making 76 millimeter guns. They can make 85s eventually, but they're making 76 millimeter guns that can knock out German tanks, true. But if their big tanks or their medium tanks all have thin enough armor that they can be readily penetrated, and the Germans can build Tiger 1s pretty early that are pretty damn hard to knock out, and if those can just have a field day knocking out thin armored vehicles, man, it's going to be hard to stop them. And I don't right offhand know, and somebody can look, how many PaK 36s were made. How many of those were made? And all of them become obsolete at fighting the Soviets once you get the T-34. All of them are obsolete. So every single one needs to be replaced. Yes, later on, they develop a grenade thing that you have to literally put over the outside of the gun barrel and at launch, and that can penetrate at what's sort of considered short range, can penetrate a T-34, but if you're just turning this anti-tank gun into sort of a big grenade launcher, sort of a better use this than nothing. But that's only eventually. That's not right away. That's like a year or more later, and those are more often given over to fixed fortifications and other things, that they're using these guns that are otherwise obsolete to them. So if every single one of those hundreds, if not probably thousands of anti-tank guns need to be remanufactured. If they didn't need to be remanufactured, not that you don't also upgrade to a 50 millimeter gun eventually, just because you're also facing the Americans. Well, you can prioritize and the British with their Matildas and other heavier armor, the Churchills. You can prioritize the 50 millimeter, the 75 millimeter guns to face against the Americans, but you can still deploy them into the east, along with the still very useful 37 millimeter gun tanks, as well as anti-tank guns. That changes the equation considerably. They seem to be very large. Well, they were able to destroy large amounts of T-34s. The illustration for me is 1942, where they just killed so many, no doubt. Overall, That's why, okay, so this is part of the German fallacy. The Germans see, and you're very right about the kill rates. And especially if you look at Stug unit kill rates. Now, some of the reasons the Stug unit kill rates are so high is because they're being used defensively, where the Panzers at the same time are being used as offensive weapons. And that makes a big difference. Because if you're sitting back, camouflaging your tanks, or they're just sitting out in the open because it's pool table flat out there, but the enemy has to come at you, well, you get to shoot them. Where if you're attacking them, you're driving along and encountering, oh shit, there's some anti-tank guns that are shooting at us. We have to react to it. It's a reaction. Part of the reason, and I would say probably the main reason, the kill ratio is so different between the Germans and the Soviets is communications. The Germans could communicate where the enemy was, once it's spotted, whether it's by a reconnaissance person or just, somebody with a field telephone or a field radio or whatever, or an aircraft flying over. Hey, I see some tanks down there, and radios it back to somebody who then radios it to somebody else, who then radios it to the guys at the front. Hey, there's tanks coming your way, and do something, whether it's bring in some Stugs or bring over some anti-tank guns or send some armor, or maybe fly in some, Stukas to drop some bombs on them. It's that communications chain that makes Germans do so well. So Germany feels that they can out-quality the Soviets and win the war. Well, the problem is one, they can't, even if they do what I'm going to suggest which would have helped. But they almost could. And this is how they almost could have, the Soviets, not the Americans. See, I would say if it was just, my contention is, if it's just somehow a roughly Germany versus Soviet Union war, roughly that, and the Germans aren't worried about being invaded from, France still exists, France sits over there, France is gone, and before the war, hey, peace, love, hippies, and Britain is peace, love, hippies, we're not going to do anything. If you want to go fight the Soviets, have a nice day, and if it's just Germany, Nazi Germany versus Soviet Union, I would say the Germans win. Purely if that's, but obviously that's not the case. And so even when so the whole time they're fighting the Soviet Union, they're still worried about building stuff to fight Britain, and then later, of course, to fight the Americans as well. But had the Germans gone a little less quality and pushed for a little bit more numbers, they would have done better. Because not all of their quality that they build on their tanks is the reason for that kill-loss ratio. Some of it is, but not all of it. Some like better optics for better range finding, because, see first, shoot first. That's sort of a Marine Corps viewpoint. But it's also with tanks, it's get the right range first for, is that 1,000 yards or 1,100 yards to then be able to put that round in the right spot onto the tank and kill it. And generally speaking, in tank duels, the Germans are going to win. Because they're not that the Soviet tank can't kill the German one, it's the Germans are going to hit the Soviet tank first and knock it out first. So, if it's like 10 tanks versus 10 tanks, through much of the war, the German 10 tanks are going to win. They might lose a tank or two, but they're going to win. And lose a tank doesn't always mean tank is gone. It's just knocked out of action, and it may be back in action 2 or 3 days, a week later, if you've won and been able to recover the tank. Though you might have lost some crew, and you may need, depending levels of repair. That's one thing that not figured well into some of these war games is returning equipment to the field. But Germany, they look to the Germans that if we just do a little better job, we can win. No, they can't. But they almost could. So yeah. Soviets lagged optic design, yes. Selling them to tooling they needed in the first place. It's very interesting. Yeah, and you know, it would just be too easy of a mod or what if that somehow you cap, and you could do this for the Soviet Union. You know, cap their armor designs from having, you know, in this game, from, you know, armor thicknesses, keep them thin and whatnot. You could do that, but that would be just too easy. Is, hey, Soviet requests big, you know, steel rolling machines, yes or no? And you go, well, no, I want to win the war. I mean, that would be too easy. Now, America can make the steel rolling machines, of course, and Britain could too. I don't know if Britain could make, because I've talked to my friend Lum, and who knows a bit more about some of the industrial necessities to make things than I do, just generally speaking. He's educated me on some of the stuff, because we still use in America some of the manufacturing equipment that we took from Germany in World War II, and it's still the only machines that can make certain big industrial things to this day. Because to this day, we don't have the tools to make the tools to make the tool to make this big thing. And so we still, and he's telling me that it's like 5-10 years. If you want to have this machine make some of this stuff, it's like, oh, well, yeah, okay, you want to do it? Okay, well, we'll start making that 10 years from now, because it's booked up that far into the future. And not that we don't have the technology in the world how to remake it, we do, but it's only under a directed government program is it really practical and possible to make this stuff, because you won't see a profit from making the intermediate elements. So there's some industrial capabilities that we're still to this day in America and basically in the world relying upon German manufacture of heavy industry that we took away from Germany after we won the war, and we're still using them. We still have a big crane here in California called Hermann the German, and it's one of the huge cranes that it was a port crane in one of the ports that the U.S. took back, and it's still operating, and it's a big crane for lifting big stuff on and off ships, you know, big stuff, not just regular cargo containers. We've got a bunch of those kinds of stuff here in Southern California, but there's still this one big Hermann the German big crane. It's still operating to this day, and it's like one of the few of these things in the world. And so if you want to put something big onto a ship or take something big off of a ship, that's your crane to use. And they just don't make them anymore. Not that they can't, but they've got to make, you know, the intermediate production machinery to get to the final machinery to make that. Right. So I don't know that Britain has enough machinery to turn over, make heavy armor, or give this, you know, and give some of it away to the Soviet Union. America could have. Okay. Now, before America gets into the war, I don't think they would have, because they're not pro-communists. Now, once America is in the war, so in 1942, practically as obvious as December. So in 1942, America's in the war. Now, I don't know how long it would take them, because some of their steel rolling machinery has pre-existing for building the battleships that they were already building. But I don't know how long it would take them to get some of those steel rolling machineries, extra copies of them, made and shipped to the Soviet Union and set up in the Soviet Union. I would suggest, just off the top of my head, probably more than a year. Okay, probably. Maybe even 2 or 3 years. So maybe 44, 45, you're starting to get machinery into, you know, American-made machinery into the Soviet Union to make things like T-34s and KVs. So that's just too easy of a let's win button to put it into a mod. But it's definitely an element of reality to understanding the trade that is going on between Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union. And again, plug Third Reich Events. There's a lot of stuff dealing with that in Third Reich Events, and you can learn about it there in some detail. And I forgot until I replay the thing that I made. It's exactly what I mean. Tank, you know, the doctrine, radio training realities has lessened the T-34 miss. Wonder if the Soviets had just as many Stuarts or something. The operational problem is the same. Well, it's part of the operational problem is radios. The Soviets just don't have the radios. They get more as the war goes on, and I don't know how much. I mean, the Lend-Lease tanks show up with radios, yes, but I don't know how much the. I don't even know how much those radios could talk to Soviet radios. And that's another whole question, because a lot of the American sets are crystal sets, and if you don't have the right crystals, that's too much. It won't talk to other crystal sets, so I don't know. Saw a whole film on how they make crystals, the crystals for crystal radio sets during the war. They were importing them from Brazil in large numbers, and how they would slice them and make compatible settings and test them. You know, they would test the crystals to see what frequency they would be on, so they could then have, you know, not just from one crystal that they sliced up, but from multiple crystals and sort them to different frequencies, and doing all that to then put them into radios so that, you know, all the radios in a battalion could talk to each other or whatever it would be. And so there's a lot going on in all of that. Sure, you can have supplies. You can have supplies. Well, the United Kingdom wanting supplies. And you can have energy, sure. There was just, it's up, well, yeah, it's really, to me, it's up until the successful D-Day invasions and the really sort of the closing of the Falaise pocket here, you know, coming around here and closing that off. And because not only when they closed it off, they were also pushing way deep into here. From then on out, in my opinion, it should be to everyone who's really paying attention. Now, see, a guy on the Eastern Front isn't really paying attention because he's worrying about, where's my next meal coming from? You know, are we going to be shelled today? He's not paying attention to the big picture. But anybody who's paying attention to the big picture, the war's lost. That's my contention. But up until then, there's always this sort of like, hey, we've got these new tanks, or hey, we've got these new super guns called Stimmgewehrs. They're going to win the war for us. They're so much better. And, you know, after shooting a bolt-action rifle a lot, you go, hey, the Stimmgewehr is great. If we just had enough of those things, yeah, we'll win. Well, so there's to keep these hope levels just keep coming out. Now, once you can't, you know, once, you know, Rome's fallen. Rome falls, what is it, a day, 2 days? It's like, June 4th, June 5th, because June 6th, 44 is obviously D-Day, but it's the day or two before Rome falls. So Rome falls, and that's clear by that point that southern Italy's lost, and they're not pushing them back out at any time soon. I mean, it's not, I mean, they wouldn't have gotten out of the Anzio pocket if, you know, they were ready for an offensive in Italy. And then once, you know, they've closed the Falaise pocket, they push, and they're pushing here. And definitely by the time you've taken Paris, you know, yeah, I know Wonder Weapon jets coming or whatever, but still, by that time, I think it's done. But before then, it's, you know, there was these new things, you know, Tigers or Panthers or whatever that's just coming around the corner that just comes out that is new and shiny and that just sort of keeps you going. But eventually, yeah, it's just that. It's so true. The vehicles trickling back into units from repair shops and not being modeled well. Yeah. Well, you know, the units that get to, I don't know where it is, here or wherever, you know, outside of the gates of Moscow or whatever its sort of thought is, a lot of these units, tank units, were at like 20% strength of tanks. Some of those tanks are destroyed in that, you know, sort of like what we call in, may probably called back then, I don't know, but in like War Thunder, ammo racked, in which, you know, the round comes in, hits the ammo, and there's a catastrophic explosion, and the turret pops off, and the armor of the hull warps out. Okay, that's a completely gone tank. You might be able to find some external pieces, road wheels, track links, that could be recycled as is. But mostly, that just becomes recycled steel that's going to go back through the system. And they did clean the battlefield up for losses from both sides, the Germans did, trying to recoup any metal, destroyed, completely destroyed anything. If they could, they tried to recoup those. But as we can see a little more clearly documented here is the back and forth, pictures I think I recently saw, or pictures of Australians sitting next to a Matilda tank that has German markings on it. Well, the Australians are getting the Matilda back into operation that they had captured from the Germans, that the Germans had captured from the British. Rommel has a headquarters unit that's also sort of a combat unit that's entirely made up of combat vehicles captured, including his two mammoths. They're big radio trucks that are both captured. And so this way he's having a unit that is not taking away from other frontline forces, not taking some panzers from them or some armored cars or whatever. They're using captured equipment, and because sometimes Rommel is on some of these battles is popping behind the lines and almost literally and with leading the troops around this. So he has this combat force, and it's partially also he shows up at part of the front, and hey, yeah, guys, you go, give a little extra firepower to that unit there. And so his escort force will go not just be a protective escort, but will be a bit of an offensive force. And they use these vehicles, and they capture these vehicles. And some of these vehicles are knocked out by a round coming in the front of the vehicle, maybe killing some of the crew, or maybe not, and maybe hitting the engine, and the vehicle's abandoned. Well, the other side comes back and goes, okay. There's a hole in the front of this vehicle. The engine doesn't run. Oh, we have this other vehicle here that, has a massive hole in the turret, but the engine's fine. Well, let's swap the engines out. And, we have a hole in the front of the vehicle. Well, let's try to fill the hole with something. I don't know what they necessarily do. But unless you get hit right at that hole, otherwise the vehicle's fine. And they get that vehicle back into service. Whether this is a captured vehicle or one of your own vehicles, this is happening all the time in the war. Not so much for the Americans, because the Americans, this is why Germany's doomed once America's in it. I think it's about 600. Can you imagine this? Some point in the Mediterranean here, there's 600 Shermans that the Americans are going, well, we really don't want these tanks anymore. We've got newer Shermans. We're not talking D-Day here. We're not talking real late in the war. We're talking, this may have been after the taking of Sicily or something, but this isn't very late. They've got 600 older Shermans. We have these ships going back to America anyways to pick up more stuff. Well, let's load all these Shermans. It's not all in one day, obviously, but they load these approximately 600 Shermans and send them back to America. These are perfectly running fine Shermans. The Americans go, well, we don't know what to do with them. We don't have any crews for them because they've sent us newer Shermans, that all of our tank units are running newer Shermans. We've given all that we could give to the Free French forces. We've given all that we could give to the Commonwealth forces. We've got 600 Shermans. Just think of Germany going, yeah, we've got 600 Panzer IVs, long-barreled guns. We just don't know what to do with them. Do we just park them here? Or, not that we don't have ammo for them or we don't have fuel for them. That would be the German problem, maybe. Just we don't have crews for them. So they send them back to America. Now, a bunch of them are refitted a little bit and are sent out to the Pacific for Commonwealth use, for Australia and India and China, because they're still very serviceable. They're in good shape. They're not like all worn out. They're just not the latest version with the best armor, the best guns or whatever. They're not the latest version. And they are sort of recycled into this theater, which they way outclass the Japanese. But, imagine having 600 Shermans. We're not talking pre-war, or we're not even talking the Lee/Grant models, which they've also withdrawn from service and are only being used. A few are being used in Italy as armored recovery vehicles. They've had the guns removed. They're just, using them as big tractors and armored recovery vehicles, just in case there's a few bullets zipping around while they're trying to recover some tank or something. And maybe a few engineering or bridging unit elements. But most of all those Lee Grants are removed from the European theater of operations. Some, again, are sent over to, being used in this theater, or being used in, reserve training camps in, India and South Africa and Canada and whatnot. So yeah, that's the production level of America, that they're sending usable tanks home that aren't way out of date. And why that just shows that Germany is it's going to lose no matter what it does at that point. It's going to lose unless it can develop the nuclear weapon or some other sort of thing, which of course thankfully they don't. But yeah, vehicles. Oh, and like earlier on, so yeah, they were down to about 20% strength. The Panzers here, but a lot of those vehicles are just literally not knocked out. I mean, like some of them are catastrophically destroyed, but a lot of them are just knocked out. Others are just simply road maintenance needed. They've driven so long that they've broken down. They need major repairs to get them driving again. And so they're sitting, strung out back here at various forward depots, getting the maintenance as they can be, whether it's free mechanics to work on them or getting the spare parts or whatever it is fixed on them. And so you have to, a lot of them get back into service, but you have to realize what a disaster. The counteroffensive that happens that winter, after the Germans halt their advance on Moscow. That counteroffensive is a massive, massive disaster for the Germans. I think it's not terrible on the German soldier. It's bad, but it's not terrible on the German soldier because most of them can walk out. But a lot of the horses just aren't up to the snow. So gotta understand, when they go into winter quarters, they often take over buildings they can find or quickly make buildings in the field, and they make stabling for their horses to keep them warm in the winter, and they literally just stay inside and they feed them. Well, you get those horses out in the winter, especially if they're not generationally trained, because you can, if you take a horse from, say, in this area where I live, there's a lot of high-end horse communities here, and horses that have lived here much of their life, and plump them into the winter up here outdoors, they're going to die because they won't have a winter coat, and they won't know that they need to have a winter coat like they do. But if you take that very same horse and you train, you take a horse that has lived here for a few years here, and you take it up here, and as the winter gets colder, they will grow a thicker coat on it. But you also sort of bring it inside and allow it to, in stables that has some level of heating. Okay. And then the next winter, it'll get a little bit thicker coat. And then like the third winter or something, I'm not an expert on all this, but the third winter, it can be outside in the winter. As long as it's getting enough food, it's not too terrible, because horses and cattle will survive outside here in the winter if they have enough food. They will. But it's sort of some biological thing in them that trains it to know that it needs to grow a really thick winter coat. Well, being outdoors in Russian snow kills a lot of the horses. So if you don't have that horse to tow that artillery piece, and then all of those trucks that didn't have any antifreeze in them, they can't be moved. So the artillery piece, or the field kitchen, or the tank who doesn't have antifreeze and the tank can't move, that all gets left behind for the Soviets. So the Germans lose huge amounts of equipment in their withdrawal. And that's something that isn't understood. Now, the only thing the reason why it's not talked about in huge amounts in analyzing World War II, in my opinion, is that a lot of that equipment is already obsolete. Meaning they're, going back to the earlier point, is they're 37mm anti-tank guns that can't do anything against the T-34, and they were going to need new ones anyways. Or they were old model Panzer IIs that weren't terribly, or Panzer I's even, that weren't terribly useful. That, so they need new equipment anyways, to some degree. But it'd still be useful equipment, or it could still be, recycled, put back through through the manufacturing process, turn it back into steel and make something new out of it. So that's another massive loss for Germany. Okay, Austria. Okay, we'll give you crude oil. We're trying to build up good relations to get Austria into the Reich. And all of that needs to be factored into what's going on in World War II. I've been thinking the last few days as I've been this new version of Black Ice is going to slow up testing for Hearts of Iron or for Third Reich events, but I'm so far not seeing. I'm going to get in and look. I haven't looked yet. If there's major changes I'll need to make to Third Reich events to make it work. I don't think there will be. So I don't think it'll take too much time, but we'll see to getting that out. But I've been thinking about how I would develop a grand strategy game of World War II. Not just modding one. I know I won't build it, but still daydreaming about how I would design my game of global World War II. Including things like trickleback, and definitely use the idea, which I had the idea many years, back in 1980 something. I had the idea of, having, at least where's a tank unit here? At least things like tanks be an individual component of a unit that would be filled, like in Hearts of Iron 4. Instead of building units, you build equipment. And if you do that, you can handle better. But Hearts of Iron 4, because of their fucked up system, consumes tanks. That's part of the makes even the trickleback stuff even worse, in that just training consumes tanks. Well, that's spare parts. No, it ain't. Because some of the harder manufacturing elements of a tank are the hull, or the the gun barrel. Gun barrels will wear out, but you got to shoot them a lot. And a lot of the consumable parts, they're pretty easy to recycle and make. It's just not, in my opinion. When really it should be, whether it's, you want to call it supplies, it's different than fuel, but supplies, you want to call it ammo or other consumptive needs of forces that should be modeled differently. Closing ceremony. Yeah, I've redone this thing. This is, again, I made this. Yes, or the original version of it. They've changed it slightly, I think, from what I've done. But I've remade it out. That's one of my graphic images. They've used some other graphic images, some of this stuff. Oh, well, they've modified it here. They removed the swastika there, or they've turned it into an X. They didn't need to do that, but whatever. Because I made the image, so they don't need to do it. But yeah, I've rebuilt it to work better than my original version that they modified and used. Okay, so now we're down at low popularity. This is one thing, and this isn't a Black Ice complaint. This whole thing in here. That internal factors, I don't know what controls those. And there was never that big of a fascist movement in Germany. But yeah, I don't know. I do a bunch of things with Third Reich events that hopefully keeps Germany from having low National Socialism popularity, but even that doesn't fully work. Should be pretty damn high. Okay, what low popularity is bringing us in fractured government. Okay. Now, fractured government, if you don't know, it is best to have all of these leaders with little brown circles. I know they're calling these guys, well, this is the same person, fascist. Chat. Well, they weren't formally fascists, as in we want fascism. Yeah, Konstantin van Rath. I don't know. Heard different pronunciations. I don't know what's correct with him. Constantine, we'll call him. He's not a Nazi. He goes along, but he's not a Nazi. At least that's my appreciation of him. Schacht, I would also agree he's not a Nazi. These guys are nationalists. I'd probably go with authoritarian conservatism for both of these. Definitely Schacht, I would go with authoritarian conservatism. No, I haven't necessarily changed him myself, but I would have very few, I think. I have to look exactly what is the FDP or the Deutsches National Volksparty, I think is what that is, and it's the Deutsches Volks something party? Free Party? I don't know, Free Party? I don't know. But the more fractured this is, it does hurt this. I do know that. But we have no choice there. Here we could put in Werner von Blumberg. I wouldn't call him a Nazi. But what do we currently have? Which... I would consider this chief, what they're calling chief of staff here, is I would call this the sort of primary military leader of the nation. Could be somebody, could be something like a, because in this time there are no, to my knowledge, no defense ministers. There's in America, it's at this point it's still the Minister of War. It might be that sort of person, or it might be the lead element of the leading military figure. So it might be a naval figure for some nations. I haven't looked in, quite honestly, I haven't looked into enough nations deeply enough. Fritsch is chief of staff of the army. That is historically him. He was that. But Blumberg was his boss. Supply consumption down versus Fritsch. Well, we don't, okay, supply consumption up. We don't need to consume more supplies. Money, well, money here. So we're gonna move Blumberg. These two guys were fired within the week of each other. On trumped up charges on both of them. Well, trumped up causes, shall we say, not necessarily charges. He, I think, even at one point is working to assassinate Hitler. I wouldn't call him a fascist either. Ludendorff. Now, Ludendorff. See, this is the crazy thing with these, and I think a lot of this is, of course, is just Ludendorff. I would probably go with fascist or other, or if we want to call it other loony ideological racist organization. He had his own party, weird sort of party thing that was allowed to exist as long as he was alive. And he had I think it was a weekly or monthly magazine, weekly or monthly, or maybe bi-monthly, I don't know, a magazine that spouted all kinds of lunacy, but might be more fascist. But definitely it wasn't Nazi, but it was lunatic as well. I mean, it was very lunatic. So, but I would go him more strongly, extreme nut job, than just authoritarian conservatism. There for sure. Hello, Niagara. Absolutely, Bloomberg Fritsch affair. Absolutely, thanks, Niagara. Hello, Michaela Cola. How you doing? It's a shame that this game crashes every 20 minutes. Well, I've been playing this game for since about 8:20 or 8:30, and I've alt-tabbed in and out of it. Now, I've only gotten to March 36 because a lot of it was just talking about it, and it hasn't crashed once for me. Now, this is with version 11 that came out today. This is today's version. Literally, I downloaded it today. And hello, Niagara. Yes. Bloomberg Fritsch affair. Yes. So I would put both of these guys with the same ideology. I mean, I don't know, and these guys generally tried to stay out of quote-unquote party politics. But they were definitely nationalists. They were definitely authoritarians. Doesn't mean that authoritarian in the German sense doesn't mean you don't want to have some elections, but it's, the Kaiser that sets the boundaries. This is what is the left and this is what is the right, and you can have votes within it, kind of thing. So authoritarian, yeah. Nationalist, yeah. I would consider the authoritarian, conservative, and they were conservative, yes. Both of these guys, I would consider that. This guy, he dies of a heart attack or something, or a brain or whatever, at some point. I think I have a death event for him in Third Reich events, because it was a sort of a natural kind of thing, I don't do combat deaths in Third Reich events, generally speaking. I don't know if that's an absolute truth, but generally speaking, because how do we know that, if you died in combat, if in the game that you're playing, that you send them to that same front to have the same reasons for dying? But natural deaths or deaths outside, well, they have some air crash deaths, but they were not combat. They were just flying around, and I just consider that as they would have happened eventually. The flight would have happened likely, and but at least the big one, what's his name over here in the Air Force? I think he'll be here. No, he's not. I'm forgetting his name. Vaver, that's it. Vaver's aircraft. There's like a 20% chance that he lives in Third Reich events, but mostly he'll die. But we're going to convert him over to here to get a unified government. But he really should be, in my opinion, up here as chief of staff, if you will, of the overall armed forces, because the way the German government is set up before Hitler gets into power, there's this civil government, and then there's the military. Both the civil government and the military are responsible to the president. This is under the Weimar thing. The civil government has the chancellor and all the ministers have no authority over the army. The army is its own sort of separate side government. This goes back to the old Prussian system that is adopted into the German imperial system. And there's multiple armies within the German imperial system, blah, blah, blah. I don't even know all the details to get into them. But he is the guy that is there when Hindenburg dies. Hitler, at that time, only unifies chancellor and president into one position. So only at that time is he now in charge of the army. But this guy here, he is sort of independent. Hitler eventually feels he needs to get rid of him, and as if you want to look up the Bloomberg-Fritsch affair, is how they do it. And they're really worried that Fritsch would take over, so they falsify stuff up for Fritsch. Because Fritsch would probably follow Bloomberg's, and Hitler. This is coming up here. Hitler's really worried about this. So, but really, he should be up here, and he shouldn't be a Nazi. He is a strong. He is on board with Hitler rebuilding the army and reoccupying the Rhineland and things like that. But he really, I think, is not on board with provoking a world war or a major war. I don't think he wants to go to war with the Soviet Union and whatnot. And that's sort of the Hochback memorandum that all gets pushed on there. And I think that is why... oh, no, I haven't. Sorry. I will poke them about that. Keep poking me about that until I do. I do mean to. It's just I keep getting distracted by other bright, shiny things. Sorry, I remember now that you've poked it up, the meta card, how often, and if at all. I will poke them about that. Okay, yeah, okay, I'm just reading through. Go ahead and post it in the forums. If you get an answer, great. It's also from me, basically. I love this mod. Yeah, now, well, okay, now with this mod today, generally what they do, and you can see about, one thing that reduces memory usage by 50 megabytes, and because there's this new side panel thing, and you can either look at the beginning of this stream to see a videos of me going about it. I will make a special tutorial eventually here, maybe not today, but within a day or two. and you can also see the explanation on the announcement page, that you will be able to remove all the sprites from the game to save another 300 megabytes of memory usage. That should help stabilize any playout. Should help. I'm not saying it will cure your problem, because it can be different problems for different machines. But that should help. 350 megabytes less of memory usage should help your stability. And they're doing other things to help the stuff to try to keep it down. So yeah, this should have fired up a little bit before. Yeah, whatever. Okay, the Hessian. Again, a ship that was gone by 1935, but you could have saved it. And this is just giving you the chance of going back in time just a little bit, which I approve. Because although I do fully agree that 36 is, and I gave a whole talk on it, it was more on Hearts of Iron 4, but it equally good for Hearts of Iron 3, why 36 is the best year to start. But there are a few decisions like that make you could have been made in 35 that would have very rationally, because the two ships that they scrapped 4 of the 6 ships. 2 of them were in very bad shape that, according to what I've read, could have been returned to working use, but probably at the cost than building a new ship. So yeah, those probably should be scrapped. And some of those were used as testing targets. They cut some of the armor from the sides of the battleship to use as targets for torpedoes or whatever to see penetration. So they used them up in some of those ways. But 2 of them were so bad that they would have cost more than replacement. The other 2 that they got rid of, the Hessen and the Hanover, were not in very good shape. And hey, we're going to build all new ships anyways. We don't need these old clunkers. Let's just get rid of them. And where the Schleswig-Holstein and the Schlesien were in very good shape, so they kept those. But these 2 were still in good enough shape that would have made economical sense to repair and rebuild them and get them seaworthy and properly, and then upgrade them to put modern anti-aircraft guns and some other modernizations on them. So that's a good, rational, plausible what if that makes sense. Okay, great. Thank you. I'll post and remind. Okay, yes. Now we're going to get more metal and more rare materials, but cost us supplies and money from China. Great. Another historical thing that's, in a general speaking sense, correct. And I say things like that because I don't know in details how much rare materials they were getting and just how much supply or equivalent of goods that they were selling to China to equate to all of that, but it was significant numbers. Just save this to been on the safe side. See, I've not even made a first save. Wow. Just a couple of auto saves. And so yeah, I'm going to probably continue playing a little bit more of Third Reich events on the 10.52 build I have, just as testing, because I've solved some bugs I found. I'm going to go in and look and see the files that I change. Some I'm sure they probably will have changed, but maybe not too major. Others, like one of the things they mentioned in the change log was some nations building 6 brigade divisions when they should have been building 7 brigades. So and DSafe is, I think, the main coder for the EULA codes. He's helped me a lot. And in that he gave me a template of what it needs to look like, and I'll look again at there to be able to build 8 to have right now. Just to let you guys know, with Third Reich events, it is meant to be played as Germany. It can be played as other nations, but it's meant to be played as Germany. And talking to the other guy who's been helping me, my friend Exhaustion, as he's known on the forums, we have set up so that Britain and the United States will also make 8 brigade divisions as standard after the war starts, or whatever. There's certain dates and go into it, but they will. We looking at the historical analysis. Japan did make large divisions, but they did not have the support elements. Things like anti-aircraft guns or anti-tank guns as standard. I mean, they really didn't have any anti-tank guns hardly at all, but didn't have much of those as standard. And one of the things that makes a lot of their divisions big is they have a large, even the infantry divisions have a large, basically a cavalry regiment, not just some reconnaissance elements, but a large cavalry regiment. And you can simulate that with just a 7 brigade loadout well enough, because they didn't have all the extra support elements. The Soviets, most of their units were smaller, so they don't have 8 brigades. France, again, most of their divisions are smaller, don't have a lot of the support elements. They're 8 brigades. But the way TRE is set up, though, is the human player of any nation has an option that the player, not the AI, but the player will have a choice to add 8, to be able to have the loadout to be able to build up to 8 brigade divisions. So this is meant to be historical. And it's also on a big front like the Soviet Union. It's probably better that they have more slightly weaker divisions than fewer 8 brigade divisions, both for, to make it harder to defeat them. That's probably better. And it's more, and we also look like Italy, they're sort of weaker divisions. They actually go down to binary divisions, just 2 brigades instead of 2 main brigades instead of 3 that most nations use. So we looked at that, and so it's just these 3 nations that really should have it: Germany, Britain, and France. Well, I did the EULA coding, so that the AI will build them, and hopefully it's good. It's one of the things testing out to see after mid-late war if they are actually turning over and building the bigger divisions, and set up that way. So that's what it's done. So if you're playing if you're playing the Allies against Germany, Germany might be a little weaker than it should be because of that. But that's it. I just haven't had the time to go in and change the coding for Germany, and it's of lower priority because most people playing Third Reich events are playing Germany. Not required, but it just, that's how most people are doing it, I do believe. That looks lower to me than what it was. I'm going to check that out. Things like that I need to know about. I want to look and see what it is on last version, because I go in with Third Reich events and hit it at the start for 10% penalty to Germany ICs. That gets removed once the 4-year plan starts, but that really shows everything that I understand about Germany, and especially about Schacht running the economy, which gives you some good boosts. And he's actually better in Third Reich events than he is here, but matches history. But once the 4-year plan goes on, the 10% penalty goes away, and a 10% bonus while the 4-year plan is active comes into play. But that first, because it's in, was it August, September of 36, so you got most of a year without building we're building fewer factories. And if you spend that year building aircraft, that 10% might not be a big hit. But if you're spending that year building factories, well, that's a year of factories not building other factories. And so its multiplying effect is a lot slower. Let's do the pop-up and pause. I like pop-up and pause these things because I don't want them to keep going as they go. Okay, twin engine bomb bay. And so I have disagreements with the Black Ice people. They know most of them because I've talked to them in person about it. If you ever want to see, it's on my channel somewhere. I did a live stream with, it was on a Friday, I believe, with Oh My God, D-Safe, Counting for Games, and a couple of the other Black Ice people answering and asking questions. This it's probably a year or more ago there, but And I talk to them, and we're all friendly, but, you know, about both what I liked what they do and what I disliked about what they do, so they know. And I'm not saying I know I'm not right on all this stuff, because a lot of what I'm making is guesses. Now, whether you would consider them educated guesses or wild ass guesses, well, you know, that's up to you to figure out. But so I know I'm not right because I'm guessing. But so are these guys. I mean, because no one has all of the detailed stats for all this stuff, because they just don't exist. And I've gone into why they don't exist. Okay, specialist training, yes, okay. And so we have to make guesses. We have to do that. No, what is... Okay, that's about what it is. It's a little cheaper than what it was from my other playthrough. Fractured government, even though I assigned one more Nazi to the... I know I could change him to... Oh, Robert Lay. Okay, I guess it's just because they're using... That's it. I sometimes wonder why some of these things are. Okay, Robert Lay, corrupt kleptocrat. Then ruling party support. A bit, yeah. I'm not going to say no. But Robert Lay was popular. And he had a very popular wife, very beautiful. She was quite popular. She was one of the sort of beauty queens of the National Socialist regime. Very popular. Franz Xavier Schwartz, resource industrialist. I don't know what the hell about Franz Xavier Schwartz would make him a resource industrialist. He is bureaucrat excellence. He is sort of was he an honorary member of the SS? That sort of looks like a black SS. I don't know if that's just a deep brown NSDAP uniform, because he was mostly just an NSDAP party guy, not an SA guy. Maybe he was an honorary SS guy too. Sometimes they get him would pass that out. I don't know. That does look like him though. Picture I use of it is in his NSDAP uniform. He's very much of a bureaucrat, but I wouldn't put him a resource. But yeah, they're just finding these stuff. That's why TRE is good, in that it's national defense, crude oil, but money supply and supply is down, resources up. I don't know. Just got to play with Third Reich events. Otherwise, I go crazy. No one has a complete version of how it was. Too many variables, unknowns. There's trends between us and then. Yes, very much Genose. Yeah, but it's, you know, I've read some books. One was like Hitler versus Stalin, looking at the sort of two regimes and the war that was fought. But the Soviets lied to themselves, as well as lying to the outside world. And it's sort of like, you know, the coal mine was given a quota, 1,000 tons of coal a month or something like that, and they would report 1,000 tons of coal coming out of the ground. If they had 1,100 tons of coal, well, they'd only just deliver the 1,000 tons of coal. They'd keep the extra 100 tons back. If there was less than 100 tons of coal, they would load 1,000 tons of coal or they would load whatever they had on it and claim onto the trains to go out, because it wouldn't all be in one day. And they would claim that it was all loaded. And then if the railway, and then if like where it was being delivered, you know, the steel factory goes, we only got 90 tons of coal. Oh, it must have been traders in the rail company that didn't deliver it. You know, they must have, you know, sabotage. You know, they sold the coal for special things or just whatever. And the rail company, no. We delivered 1,000 tons of coal in this last month. Your records must be wrong. You must have stolen it and sold it off. Blame the company. So it got to the point that nobody would report that things weren't done to the right quotas because you get sent off to the gulags. At shot at worst. At best, you would become just a standard factory worker or something. At best, probably a lot of the stuff would go off to gulags, at least for a while, if not permanently. So they lied to themselves internally about all kinds of facts just to fit the planned narratives, and so we've lost all. So those records were never right. And then, of course, what the Soviets told the outside world, the coal crisis, well, just whatever it could be in the Soviet Union, whatever materials either claimed to be delivered or claimed to be sent, or recruits. We trained 1,000 recruits here. You mean you lost 100 recruits from when after they left this depot before they showed up? You better make sure that people don't desert. You'll be in trouble. So whatever it was, they were lying to themselves internally, and then of course they lied to the outside world. And we still don't have full access into the Soviet archives. We have greater access than we used to, and maybe it's closed back down, I don't know, recently. But after the Cold War ended, we got better looks into the Soviet archives, including the archives that the Soviets got of, you know, Germany and other places, you know, Romania or Hungary or whatever. We've gotten better looks at those, but still some of those are sealed up from it, and some of them are just misfiled, and there's this other building over here full of documents that nobody's looked in yet or something. There's that literally, I think, going on as well. So you have all of those problems for both, you know, internal Soviets as well as stuff that the Soviets captured. And then of course the Germans lost huge amounts of stuff. Like, one of the things is Germany, you know, is going, hey, we have this war going on, and, you know, obviously, we need more aircraft. Well, these British mosquitoes that are flying around, you know, not little mosquitoes that suck your blood, but the fighters, and, you know, one or more has crashed, and they've got to look at the mosquitoes and go, hey, these are 2 engines built on a wooden frame. Wow, this really works, and it's really fast. We ought to build a German version of this because we have aluminum shortages. So one of our bottlenecks, not the only bottleneck for aircraft production, but one of the bottlenecks is aluminum frames. We can have furniture makers make the frames, and they could then bend the, you know, sort of plywood around the aircraft. Yeah, this would be great. Let's make these up. Okay, hey, I forget what factory it was, but hey, yeah, figure out how to make this. Oh, okay. So they spend a while, and they produce a German prototype of a mosquito. You know, it looks different. It's similar, but looks different, and it's going to fly really good. You know what happens? Oh, okay, Jacob. You know, thank you. Well, please keep testing a bit on 10.53. I will be looking into 11, and I will try to upgrade it. But please, for a while, test it on the current 10.52, just to give me feedback on it. I will, as soon as I can, I will get the updated to the new version, and then you can switch over to that, please, if you can. Well, what happens is an air raid. There's an air raid, and the sort of manufacturing plant facility test element for these new German mosquitoes gets bombed. Can you imagine it? During a war, an aircraft development area gets bombed. You know why you don't hear of German mosquitoes, or whatever they would have called them? Because the guy who developed the glue to glue the wood together to make it hold together was in the factory when it was bombed, so he's killed. And all known copies of the formula for the glue were destroyed in the fire of it. They didn't even have like backup copies back in Berlin or some other place. So, oops, we don't know how to make the glue, mein Führer. We can't do or Goering or whoever. Reichsmarshal, we don't have the formula for the glue. We can't build any of these aircraft that we're going to win the war with. Oops. So that just illustrates the records that were lost. I mean, that's sort of an extreme case, but so many records were lost during World War II Germany, either from bombing. You know, some of the records they got for some of the battles out leading up to Stalingrad. And one guy wrote a book on a battle that I forget his name, we hardly ever know about, but it was a major battle on the way to Stalingrad. The Germans won, but it was sort of costly. He was only able to do it is because some of the field records, I don't know whether I think they were captured, you know, in the Stalingrad stuff of the German side of this battle, and they've been sitting in Moscow archives that he got access to. And so with that and what Soviet records that he also had access to, put together a battle that, you know, hundreds of tanks and whatnot all happened in that we had never heard of in the West because it just never made the news and no one had any good records for it. It was just a lost major panzer battle out, you know, versus the Soviets. So, you know, so stuff lost just out in the field. But then also at the end of the war, all of these departments everywhere, they were burning every single record they could. I watch a show called Sea and Arsenal, where they've been looking at, though they've expanded beyond now a bit than World War I just because of the coronavirus and things. But one of the major things they've been, or the main starting point, was all of the weapons of World War I. Really good show if you'd like details about small arms, and I love them. Well, I found out recently from watching their show that in development of I think it was the Mauser Gewehr, either the Mauser Gewehr 88 or the Gewehr, I think it was either the Mauser Gewehr 88 or the Mauser Gewehr 98 rifle, one of those. They don't have the records for them. They were destroyed in World War II, probably by the Germans, intentionally. All they have left are the Bavarian records that all it is notes. Like, oh, well, they, you know, so, you know, they just like got updates. Oh, well, you know, like short paragraphs, not the pages and pages of research notes that was here. They were just because Bavaria at the time was, you know, a part of the German Empire, but sort of a different state, and they were sort of a different sub, and the main testing and whatnot was going on in the Prussian state. So the Prussian records of this, I forget exactly which one of this Mauser, were all done up in this part of Germany. Well, they were sending down, you know, brief notes about what they were finding to keep the Bavarians informed of what was going on, just in a general sense. So all we have left as researchers are the Bavarian notes of the Prussian tests and the Prussian developments and requirements for the Mausers. Well, okay, that's just, and I only know this is because they were looking in and people have been trying to do research, and he was talking about trying to find paperwork on the Mausers. So figure that splayed out all this about all kinds of other things during the National Socialist regime and before have all just been destroyed, you know, deliberately by the Germans or by bombings. So, and there's still, you know, records that may exist in Paris or in, you know, the Imperial War Museum and the U.S. National Archives that no one's gone in and looked at. Now those someday, nobody that at my level is going to be able to get in, but the higher level researchers can get in and actually, I mean, I could go look at the U.S. archives, but on German records, I can't read German. I mean, I could recognize words here and there, but I can't really read German. But I could get access to the U.S. National Archives. If I go through the hoops, I'm sure I could. But and I could probably get access to some of the other Western archives and whatnot, but I don't read German and all of that and the expense and cost. So I'm not going to do original source. So I'm reliant upon people who write books and who do go in and look at this stuff. I get some original source material, as in you see some of the images of, you know, booklets and other things published during World War II, but mostly it's secondary stuff. But so much is just purely gone. And so we just have to make educated guesses. So we're never going to be right. Well, it's been okay. Actually, the mod is actually standalone Steam game. Oh, you're talking about the Darkest Hour? Yes. Maybe take a look at. Yes, they do a reasonably good job, and I was given access to some of the stuff way back in my early days for the Darkest Hour by some of the developers there. Does Third Reich events generally work with other popular mod families? Exception obvious. Well, it's well, I'm having a bit of a discussion now with Revolver Held, the guy who makes GGA as a submod. Third Reich events for Hearts of Iron 3 requires Black Ice. It should work when things get worked out with the other Black Ice submods, but that is its extent. If you're going to play other Hearts of Iron 3, like Historically Plausible mod, or some of the other ones I'm blanking on the names right now, no. It won't work. It is not standalone in that sense. It needs Black Ice and works only with Black Ice. For those new here, and I'm sure there are some, if you haven't already, if you're on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel. And if you're on Twitch, please hit the follow button. I'd love to have you around. We're going to be covering more developments of this and Hearts of Iron 4. Last weekend we were doing Hearts of Iron 4, whether live or just, on YouTube videos. Okay, Heaven is for Brunswick. This is something okay, before I do that, let's come down here. There we go. Where is this? It's up here. Okay. After talking with D-Safe earlier, this is a hill. And I've gone into detail about the conflicts within the National Socialist regime and stuff going on, but I get Oh my God's point is government ineptness. But from my study of Germany, especially pre-war, and only until you get like some of the underground facilities for building V weapons, or they were building. I don't know if they got it operational, but the under the mountain factory to build. I think they got it operational to build ME-262s that they bring in the resources and some of the components, and they would do some final manufacturing and then assembly work, and have an elevator that took the aircraft up to the top of the mountain and had an airstrip there to fly it off, so it was sort of bomb-proof. And then so once that's under mostly Hans Kammler's work late in the war. And if you look at particularly Albert Speer's work, he's very rational in his industrialization. But prior to the war, most things that would be considered like expanding heavy industry was done by the industrialists themselves. So I'm discounting Oh my God's government ineptness and just randomly put it around just anywhere there might be a factory. And this alone wouldn't do it, but because of other decisions that they've made that I fundamentally disagree with, TRE has become, unfortunately, it was meant to just be, hey, more events give more immersion and more, history detail and little more, not always good. A bunch of stuff just costs money and doesn't really help you. But it's National Socialist Germany, and you need to follow along the plan. It's now a remix mod as well. I'm remixing Black Ice. So what I'm thinking I'm going to do is, I think this thing here, it already looks for one or more regular factories, industries. Sometimes they call it several different things. I hate how they through the mod as well as the game call it different things. But where there's already one regular industry, I think I'm going to try to make it so that it requires a minimum of 3. And it'll just be be change one little number from 1 to a 3. You just got to go find it and change it. And so it won't be, prioritize, because obviously if you wanted to, you would want to pick somewhere where it's already super high and prioritize this and put these here and other places that it's super high. I agree that it might not always be purely prioritized the highest, but onesies, that's just too low. Too low for me, and since I'm already doing a remix, I'm just expanded to doing more remix. And it's just when I really have a significant disagreement, but I don't make it to mean, because but just also know that it won't just affect Germany. It will affect any nation, the U.S., France, whatever, Soviet Union as well. So it won't be just for German players. It would be for every nation out there. So it would help rationally all the nations that would have a heavy industry, whatever qualifies you to get that heavy industry thing. So it might not affect Tibet, because it just probably wouldn't get the heavy industry. But any nation that would get those events, it would affect them. Okay, I normally don't do this because I have my own, and I think better. I think, just because I haven't played theirs, but looking quickly at it, mine's better. But we'll do this here since we don't have mine installed. Okay, reduce that down. Now let's come here and let's give these guys, no, not that much. Come on, just let's slowly give them what they need. Give them some reinforcements. So yeah, things like that. I'm not trying to make it easier for Germany to win, because like I say, it would help America or help Britain or help the Soviet Union. It just to more rationally fit what I would picture history. At least that's my judgment on all of this, is for my mod, is how it would fit history. Some of the stuff makes Germany more powerful. Some of the stuff, like the start of Third Reich events, pulling away the West Wall here, making you rebuild it. Now you rebuild it through events cheaper than you would rebuild it through just purely building. Oh, well, we need more factories in production. Well, let's just. Okay, let's take a look here. Has anything major changed here? Well, okay, we don't have heavy armor. Let's build a Panzer division. Let's build a good Panzer division. Better than historical ones. Hermann Trucks headquarters. Okay, well, let's do armored cars. And I guessed, well, we're gonna do light artillery. Let's see, speed 500 or 5.4 kilometers. Let's remove this. 6. I guess that's the best to keep it fast. Yeah, okay, we'll do that. We'll build a 101st Panzer Division. But like I say, I have my disagreements with the Black Ice team. That doesn't mean I think they're bad guys, and it doesn't mean that I think I'm right and they're wrong for sure. It's just my take on it. Oh, and like one thing I do in Third Reich events is get rid of the ability to trade these things. That is all removed in Third Reich events. Okay, it's just gone. The ability to trade these are gone. What you do have still, though, this will still, they'll still appear up here, and then you'll still get the levels for them if members of your faction have them. So let's come down here. like here, like aluminum here. So you would, if if Italy's in your faction, you would get the benefit of that. Or when you conquer, what is this here? This is uranium. Well, okay, uranium. Or when you conquer here and get helium, you would get that on more zinc. You would get that by conquest. So you'll still get it by conquest, and you'll still get it by members of your faction having it, but you won't be able to trade it with Third Reich events. But if that is too much for you, you want to trade it, you like what they do, fine. It is as easy, and if somebody really wants to know how to do it, it's as easy as taking the black ice, it will either removing one particular file from, you can just delete, if you know which file it is, and I'm not gonna, I gotta have to go in and look to quickly get the correct name, but I'm not trying to hide it. You can either delete the file from Third Reich events, or just copy the Black Ice version of the file into the Third Reich events folder, either way, and get back to trading, because there's one little simple thing I changed to disable it. It's all still, all the mechanic is still there. It's just, and it's disabled for everybody, not just Germany. So I disable it. You can re-enable it. Most of these big changes like that are, most of them, not all of them, are easy fixes for the player if they don't like what I've done. It's not that big of a deal to get rid of them. So I'm not trying to force you to play my way. I'm just setting up mine the way I like it, the way I, not just the way I like it, but the way I think it is historically. And I know I'm not going to go into details on why I don't like the trading. I've done it before, and I'll probably do it again in the future. But it's because, and it's not just like, it's I think it's historically wrong. In short, it infers a lot of control over things that I think are more than they should be. Special Forces branch upgrade, that is here and now 36. Okay, let that continue. And so if you want it the other way, it's easy to put it back. And who knows, if there was enough call for it, I'd even make a tutorial on how to put it back, if you want, and do it right. So it's not like I'm trying to force people. I'm just trying to present my view of it. Okay, guys, well, we've gone quite a while. My voice is getting tired. I now have a much better understanding of the new developments and changes. I hope you do too. On the whole, I'm really appreciative and really like them. The changes, particularly from 10.52 to 11, I think they're good. Probably this is going to delay Third Reich events a little bit, because I'm probably going to wait till 11.01 or 02, just to let them have a patch or update a little bit from this, just with all the player feedback. But if they're not doing anything fast and I get the other thing done, I'll probably just release it on 11, but it may not come that fast. So just let you guys know it's coming. Yeah, and thank you, Niagro. Thank you, Genose, and everyone else for hanging out with me. Again, like, share, subscribe, follow, whatever. I'll be back tomorrow for War Thunder with hopefully the boys, hopefully Niagro and others who want to will come. Arno will come and play with us. We'll be doing that, and yeah, I don't know if I'm going to do a stream on Christmas Day or not. Probably I am, but we'll see. Don't know if anybody's going to want to watch at that time, but we'll see what's coming, and I will be continuing to work on Third Reich events and making more videos, so you should be seeing those. So thanks, everyone. Been fun hanging out with you. The boys, yes. Niagro, you're one of them, and so is Arnold. So thanks, everyone. And so far, this has been very stable, so I'm glad about that. Talk to you guys.